Hello, everybody. This is an impromptu stream we are doing. We wanted to talk about a very specific issue here, a very philosophical issue from a philosophical approach. As you guys know, we do philosophy. So hopefully, some people would sign on and get into the stream, maybe or watch it, or at least watch the stream and so on. But it's meant to be mainly a review of certain philosophical arguments. But even if you're not a live viewer, this is going to be recorded, and you can, or hopefully in the future, you can click on it and watch it. So what we're going to be dealing with in this stream is the design argument. Everybody's heard of it. Everybody knows about it. During atheist and theist debates, we always hear the argument. One of the most popular arguments in the arsenal of the theist is the fact that the universe, objects within the universe, things within the universe, looks like it was designed. And therefore, design implies designer, or creation implies creator, and so on. And this is the kind of lingo. And therefore, there is a designer. And then it is assumed that this designer is God. So we're going to talk about this very strong intuition that a lot of people have when they're looking around at the universe, looking around at stuff around the world, that they think that it looks like it was made by a manufacturer, an artificer, an artisan, or some sort of designer. We want to talk about that, and the history of philosophy has produced a lot of literature on this, and there's very many different versions of the design argument. A lot of people know about Richard Dawkins, who actually responded to the design argument by arguing who created the designer. But for a lot of people, that's where it ends, and we wanted to go a bit deeper into it. So Philo, as you know, I'm here joined with Philo. If you want to say anything, Philo, about anything.
Yes, hello everybody. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody's doing good. And thank you, Mahdin. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well as well. So before we started, I just wanted to spell this out to anybody who's listening right now, or anybody who's going to listen to this later on, is to first thing first is share this content, as much as you can. Like this stream, or any other stream that you can find on our channel, and also comment on all the streams as much as you possible, because the more you comment on the streams, the better visibility it gets on YouTube, basically. And so that's that's the only motivator as of now for us. And as Mahadan said, we are going to cover the design argument, also called teleological argument. So it's synonymous with that. And I think telos means end, or yeah, something like that. Telos and logos, I think. So that's what the argument we are going to discuss. There are a couple of, as Madan said, there are a couple of different versions of it. Fine tuning is one, blind watchmaker is one, and then irreducible complexity is one, and so on and so forth. And there have been others as well. So we're going to dig deeper into it, and mostly Madan is going to take the mental of handling those deeper arguments, but I'll be kind of acting like a sidekick. So Madan, if you want to take it over, and then we'll.
Yeah. So a lot of a very very popular argument in a very simple formulation basically argues that if you look around the universe, if you look around things, there are things that look intricate. They look like they are performing particular functions, and it's orderly, and it's complex. And orderliness, complexity, intricacy, function implies some sort of purpose or order, and therefore it's assumed that there was probably an intentional process of creation, right? And different people make this argument in different ways. As you know, Paley's and watchmaker argument, very popular. And we're going to just generically talk about it. Everybody knows about it. You walking around in the sand and you find a watch. You pick the watch up and look at the watch, and you look at the very clear precision in which it was created. It looks like it was created. It's very organized. It's ticking in a particular way. It's ordered. It's complex. It's intricate. and you know intuitively straight away that this watch has a creator, it has a manufacturer, a designer. It didn't come out of thin air. It didn't come out through a random process. It has a manufacturer. And that's kind of like the design argument, and that implies that a designer. And then the argument is made that if the universe, like this watch, is intricate, complex, has functions, has some order, which it does. The universe has, the laws of gravity. The sun comes up and down. It's like it has a natural clockwork to it. The heart pumps blood around the body, and it looks as though these things were designed similar to the watch. And if you make a compare and contrast analogy with the watch, you compare the heart with the watch, you compare the eyeballs with the watch, the eye with the watch. You compare compare any part of your body, any organ of your body, or forget the body, just compare the entirety of the world, plants, other animals, even caves and rocks and so on. They seem to have an order, a structure, a purpose. And if they're relevantly similar to the watch, just like the watch, it has those particulars. It has intricacy, complexity, order, and so on. And if the watch has a creator, therefore, by analogy, and we're drawing this analogy, by analogy, the world, the cosmos, the universe, yourself also has a creator, a manufacturer, a designer. So that is the very basic.
Yes, Mahdin. Very aptly put.
Yeah, go on.
Yes, aptly put the definition. I was thinking maybe just clarify this definition in Hindi as well. Maybe someone who's probably not getting it, maybe wants to listen to it in Hindi.
Yeah, go for it.
So अब तक जो महादिन ने जो बात की थी वो एक्चुअली इस डिज़ाइन आर्गुमेंट की डेफिनेशन है, और उसका एक जो डेफिनेशन है वो विलियम पेली करके एक फिलोसोफर था. उसने अपनी बुक नेचुरल थियोलॉजी में 1802 के आसपास की बात है मेरे ख्याल से, और 1802 के आसपास उसने ये एक वॉचमेकर एनालॉजी करके एक आर्गुमेंट रखी थी, और उसने ये किसी खुदा के या किसी खालिक के कायनात के वजूद के फेवर में ये आर्गुमेंट रखी थी. और उसने ये कहा कि फ़र्ज़ कीजिए कि आप किसी एक बीच पे जा रहे हैं या कहीं जा रहे हैं, और आपने वहाँ बीच पे आपको एक वॉच आपको मिली सैंड पे, ठीक है, रेत पे आपको एक वॉच मिली. जब आप उस वॉच को आप उठाकर देखोगे और उसको देखोगे, तो अगर आपने बिल्कुल एक ब्लाइंड किसी रिमोट सी जगह पे आपने जाके वो वॉच देखी, आप उस वॉच को उठा के देखोगे तो जितनी इंट्रिकेटली वो वॉच बनी है, उस इंट्रिकेसी के साथ जो वॉच को आप देख के बोलोगे कि हाँ, इसको किसी वॉच मेकर ने बनाया, इसका कोई ना कोई बनाने वाला रहा होगा, क्योंकि इतनी कॉम्प्लेक्स चीज़ अपने आप तो वजूद में नहीं आ पाएगी वो किसी भी तरह से. तो इस वॉच की जो कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी है, उससे आप डिड्यूस कर सकते हो कि इसका कोई बनाने वाला रहा होगा या वॉच मेकर बना रहा होगा इसका. उसी तरह से ये इस एनालॉजी के बेसिस पे आप ये डिड्यूस कर सकते हो. आपका ये आर्गुमेंट रहेगा कि जब मैं आसपास देखता हूँ, आसमान में देखता हूँ, कायनात को देखता हूँ, तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि ये कायनात जो है इसमें बहुत कॉम्प्लेक्स चीज़ें हैं, और ऐसा लगता है कि इसमें एक डिज़ाइन दिखाई दे रहा है मुझे. और अगर मेरे को ये डिज़ाइन दिखाई दे रहा है, तो इसका कोई ना कोई डिज़ाइनर भी रहा होगा, जैसे कि एनालॉजी आपने वॉच के साथ देखी है. तो यही महादिन ने जो अभी बताया वो एग्जैक्टली यही बताया. महादिन, प्लीज टेक इट ओवर.
Yeah, exactly. So, that would be the basic argument to deduce God. It's basically through analogy. It's an argument from analogy. But if the watch has a creator and the watch is intricate, then if the universe is intricate, then the universe also has a creator. It's not just intricacy; it's all those other properties: complexity, intricacy, precision, particular purposes, particular orders, and so on. And the universe is like the watch, has its natural clockwork. Therefore, the universe has a creator or a designer. And yeah, that's the very basic argument. So we're going to try and now think about what's wrong with this, right? What is wrong with this argument? Why do atheists and agnostics not find this attractive at all? What's gone wrong here? Well, a Enlightenment philosopher called David Hume had written extensively on this. In fact, he popularized some of the most common arguments against this. Sorry, not popularized it, but he originated, I would say, or at least popularized in the 17th, 18th century. But more recently,
for the philosophers and intelligentsia of that time to be
yeah,
criticized,
exactly.
I think,
He
right?
really put it together. And David
Right,
Hume
right.
famously wrote in a very obscure way. He used dialogue between two fictitious people. I think one of them was called actually Philo, and the other one is I can't remember the other one's called Cleo, maybe I don't know. So and his entire book, I think it was Inquiry Concerning Human Understanding, or something to do with natural theology. Basically, these are called natural theological arguments on natural theology in the sense that they're not scriptural arguments. They're not arguments from Revelation. Yeah, they're arguments about the nature of the universe and inferring God from that. That's why it's called natural theology. It's not theology of the scripture, it's the theology of the cosmos, or nature. And yeah, David Hume, he famously put on his skeptic's hat. He never, I think, publicly declared he was an atheist or anything, and we don't necessarily know whether he was or not. But he's definitely a very skeptical person, and
Right,
he
right.
hacked the very core of this design argument by what he did was he literally took the mantle and tried to act as a consistent. He tried to perform a reducto, basically, where he consistently tried to apply the principle of analogy, and then he tried to show that in fact it leads to many different conclusions, and some conclusions that are unwelcome by theism. Right? So he showed that if you take consistently this principle of the watchmaker analogy, this principle of analogy, and compare the universe, compare the cosmos to the watchmaker, which leads to the conclusion that there is a designer, then it also leads to other absurd conclusions that are uncomfortable with any religion, scripture, or theism that exists. And in fact, he said it disproves theism. So the argument from analogy disproves theism. So Philo, do you have any questions so far? You might be thinking you
No,
might.
I just want to, translate this in Hindi if
Yeah.
you, I'll just be brief, right? So अब तक जो महादिन ने कहा है वो तो आपको डेफिनेशन तो बता दी गई है कि डिजाइन आर्गुमेंट क्या है बेसिकली, राइट? ठीक है, आपने एक वॉच देखी, आपने एक एनालॉजी बनाई कि अगर वॉच है कहीं पे आपको दिख रही है रैंडमली और वो आपको लग रहा है कि वॉच है बड़ी इंट्रिकेटली डिजाइंड है तो उसका कोई डिजाइनर होगा। आप यूनिवर्स को देखते हैं, उसको भी इंट्रिकेटली आपको लगता है कि यार ये तो बड़ा इंट्रिकेट है, यहाँ पे लाइफ भी एग्जिस्ट करती है, बड़े प्लैनेट्स हैं, बड़ी गैलेक्सीज हैं, सब कुछ है, लाइफ है, लाइफ के जिंदा रहने के लिए सब कुछ है, प्लांट्स हैं उनके खाने के लिए सब कुछ है, राइट? आपको ऐसा लगता है कि ये सब कुछ चीज़ें आप ही के लिए बनाई गई हैं बेसिकली, तो आप डिड्यूस करते हो कि नहीं, हाँ ये इस पूरी कायनात को बनाने वाला और ये इंसानों को बनाने वाला इस कोई ना कोई डिज़ाइनर होगा। पर इस ऑब्जेक्शन में सबसे बड़ा डेंट डालने वाला अगर कोई था, वो एटलीस्ट शुरुआती दौर की बात कर रहे हैं, हम अब बात कर रहे हैं डेविड ह्यूम की बात कर रहे हैं 1802 के आसपास, नहीं, डेविड ह्यूम, मैं शायद फेल कर रहा हूँ, डेविड मार्टिन, व्हेन वाज डेविड ह्यूम राइटिंग दिस?
I think
17th century, right?
yeah, 17th, 18th century somewhere. I don't know the
राइट,
exact date.
17th and 18, 17 या 18वीं सदी की बात है। और डेविड ह्यूम ने इस आर्गुमेंट को बड़े अच्छे से तफसील से इसको एनालाइज किया और इसके अगेंस्ट जो है आर्गुमेंट्स डाली बेसिकली, और वो जो है वो शुरुआती दौर की वो आर्गुमेंट्स, और वो काफ़ी डिटेल में है जो कि आज की डेट में नहीं सुनने मिलती, पर वो उसी के बारे में महादिन आगे बात करेंगे। सो महादिन, गो अहेड प्लीज।
Yeah. Or did you mention though that he tries to consistently follow the principle of analogy and actually demonstrate that it's actually inconsistent with theism or the conclusions of the Abrahamic
राइट,
script?
राइट। सो जो डेविड ह्यूम है उसने ये आर्गुमेंट को जो है एनालॉजी को कंसिस्टेंटली फॉलो किया, और उस कंसिस्टेंटली फॉलो करने का नतीजा ये हुआ कि ये जो थियज्म जो है वो ये आर्गुमेंट थियज्म के स्ट्रिक्टली अगेंस्ट चली गई बेसिकली, और डिस्प्रूव किया बेसिकली थियज्म को इस आर्गुमेंट में, इस एनालॉजी के थ्रू डेविड ह्यूम ने। पर डेविड ह्यूम के व्यूज़, जैसे कि महादन ने भी बोला, डेविड ह्यूम ने अपने व्यूज़ जो हैं, अपने एटलीस्ट उसके उसके वर्ल्ड व्यू के एतबार से उसने कभी एक्सप्लिसिटली एक्सपोज नहीं किया अपने आप को, बट प्रॉब्ली वो एक तरह का नास्तिक रहा होगा, एथियस्ट रहा होगा, मुलहद रहा होगा बेसिकली।
Yeah.
All right, Martin.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So what Hume showed or argued basically was that okay, let's put on the hat of the theist and or the design argument proponent or the fan of the design argument. What sort of conclusion can we get from if you follow this principle of analogy by comparing it to the watch? So when he does this, he says, all right, if we are now permitted to make arguments from analogy like this, then it also follows that if it is the case that a watch has a watchmaker, and therefore because it has these properties, function, has a particular order, particular intricacy and complexity, and those things usually are caused by people, designers, persons. Therefore, the sun has probably a designer, the gravity has a designer, the earth has a designer, your body has a designer, etc. If we follow it like that, then we have to be completely consistent, and we can't just pick and choose our analogy. We have to follow through with the analogy completely. And he made the argument, first of all, that if we follow through with the analogy, then what else is analogous between those things? Well, one of the things is that, like the watchmaker, the universe or the rest, the things that you're comparing the watch to, they are all finite, right? They are not infinite in qualities. So you don't have like an infinite supply of anything. You don't have an infinity anywhere in the universe. And he specifically mentioned infinite. And the reason being, you don't see, for example, certain qualities in the universe that are consistent with a theistic, for example, deity. Now, the theistic deity is an infinite deity. There's infinite in compassion, infinite in intelligence, yeah, and infinite in presence, right, and infinite in power, and so on.
Right.
So omniscience, omnipotence, omnibenevolence, and omnipresence.
Right.
We call this like the triad, or like a trilogy of attributes or something like that. I can't remember.
Right.
Call it the triad or whatever. But the universe itself, nothing about the universe indicates that it was created by this sort of omni deity. Yeah.
Right. If you try to fit the analogy to the T, your conclusions should be that something finite created this universe, or whoever, whatever you consider the cosmos, or whatever you want to compare it to, basically.
Exactly.
So Mahdin, let me just spell this out in Hindi, right? So महादिन ने जो एक बड़ा अच्छा एग्जांपल बताया कि डेविड ह्यूम का आर्गुमेंट जो था, और डेविड ह्यूम को अगर आप पढ़ेंगे, बड़े सिंपलिस्टिक आर्गुमेंट्स में बड़े डीप में गया है वो, और उसका कहना है कि अगर इस आर्गुमेंट को आप बिल्कुल टू द टी अगर आप फॉलो करो, तो आपको बड़े एब्सर्ड से कंक्लूजन्स पे पहुंचना पड़ेगा, जो कि आपकी जो थियोलॉजी के बेसिस पे जो आपकी जो खुदा का जो एट्रीब्यूट्स हैं, वो आप उसको वो डिफाई कर देगा बेसिकली, राइट? जैसे कि उसमें एक आर्गुमेंट है कि वॉचमेकर बनाने वाला अगर कोई इंसान है, ठीक है, तो वो लिमिटेड है अपने इसमें कहीं ना कहीं, या तो आप उसकी ज़िंदगी लिमिटेड है, या लिमिटेड एटम्स से बना है। तो अगर आप इसी एनालॉजी को आप डिज़ाइनर के लिए लेके जाओगे, तो आप इस कंक्लूजन पे पहुंचोगे कि ये जो ओमनी प्रॉपर्टीज़ हैं किसी डिज़ाइनर की, वो मैच नहीं कर रही है, क्योंकि आपका जो डिज़ाइनर है इस एनालॉजी के एतबार से वो भी लिमिटेड हो गया बेसिकली, ठीक है? तो ये जो आर्गुमेंट था, ये डेविड ह्यूम का था, राइट माधव?
Yeah. So if the watch has a watchmaker, the watch has a finite watchmaker, right? And if the watch is finite and the watchmaker is finite, then also the heart is finite. It's not infinite in it by any means. It is a finite amount of blood, finite size, right? It expires, right? It's relevantly similar to the watch in that regard as well. And therefore, the heart, the creator of the heart, if that's what we're imputing now, implying, must also be finite, right? There's no way we can get to the conclusion that it has, as you mentioned, the omni
Omni properties, right?
in which case you don't get to a god, right?
Right,
So
right, right.
you have to
I mean,
demonstrate this.
at least not to the God that you want, basically. I mean,
Yeah. Well, exactly, and well, he pushed it even harder and said, well, if we're going to follow analogies, right, then there's no reason to. But by the way, Philo, are you there?
yeah, I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm here.
There's no
Yeah,
reason to even think it's a god necessarily. It's. I mean, we can't judge the amount of strength or power or ability this creature or being has precisely. All we can tell is that it has enough power to create this thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to come to that. So महादिन जो
Yeah.
कह रहा है, और बिल्कुल मैं इसी पॉइंट पे आने वाला था कि फर्ज कर लो कि हाँ आपने कह दिया कि हाँ चलो ये जो यूनिवर्स है, ये कायनात हमारे हमारे नज़र में ये बहुत बड़ी लगती है, राइट? बिलियंस एंड बिलियंस ऑफ लाइट ईयर्स अक्रॉस है, बट क्या इसको बनाने के लिए जो भी, अगर आपने कंक्लूड भी कर लिया इस आर्गुमेंट के एतबार से कि भाई कोई इसका क्रिएटर है, पर क्या ये आप कह सकते हो कि वो गॉड है? हो सकता है कोई एलियन हो जो कि जिसने इसको क्रिएट किया हो, जो कि हम लोगों से थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा पावरफुल हो, मे बी 1000 टाइम्स ज़्यादा पावरफुल हो, मे बी मिलियन टाइम्स ज़्यादा पावरफुल हो। शायद हो सकता है कोई लेसर गॉड हो, कोई भी गॉड, मतलब कोई बहुत बड़ा गॉड जिसकी ओमनी प्रॉपर्टीज नहीं हो, ओमनी पोटेंट नहीं हो, या ओमनीशिएंट नहीं हो, उसकी ओमनी प्रॉपर्टीज जो हैं वो लेसर डिग्री पे हो, ये भी पॉसिबिलिटी है। तो आप जो जिस गॉड पे पहुंच रहे हो वो गॉड पे भी नहीं पहुंच सकते, आप एक क्रिएटर पे पहुंच सकते हो किसी हद तक कि हाँ भाई किसी ने क्रिएट किया है। वो क्रिएटर कौन है आपको ये नहीं मालूम, एलियन हो सकता है, कोई एक डॉग हो सकता है, मे बी कोई एक
Philo,
एलिफेंट हो सकता है कुछ।
yeah, Philo, let me
राइट,
clarify
सॉरी
now.
महादिन,
Yeah,
महादिन
let
प्लीज।
me clarify though. Hume is saying if we're going to make these analogies and these analogies can be had, right? Then it's not that it's possible that it's not that it's possible that it can be a god, but we can't just know. He's saying that by analogy, we have to be to the letter of the law of the analogy. If we're forcing a designer due to our experience of designers making
राइट,
clock,
राइट, राइट,
yeah, and watches, if we're forcing that the universe therefore must have a designer, then we have to be consistent to the core and actually conclude that the designer has to be finite. He's not saying that we can't. He's not saying that hypothesis that it could be a god is open. Yeah, and we just can't
right.
distinguish.
Yeah.
He's
I
actually
think
saying that.
maybe I miss. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
yeah.
Go
He's
ahead.
actually saying the conclusion is that the designer has to be finite because yeah,
Right.
if
I think that's what I was saying as well
yeah,
there, that it has to be finite, and all the omni properties go out of the window pretty much.
yeah,
And there might be
yeah,
a creator, but it has limited powers in all the
yeah,
sense, pretty much.
yes, yes.
Right. Right.
He made the argument it has to be finite. Yeah, exactly. And the reason for that is that he was mocking basically the idea that we have to compare it to these sort of objects in the first place and actually conclude there's a designer, right? If you can conclude there's a designer, then follow through the analogy and conclude there's a finite designer, right? And therefore theism is false. So that's what he was saying, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So shall I move on to the
Yeah,
next
and
part?
one of the very fundamental reasons behind that is also that because of these omni properties that, and these gods that the theists are positing for their own whatever religions that they are talking about, they have a very specific definition, at least within their own theology, pretty much, right, Madin? So
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, at least in Abrahamic religions, the omni properties are very fundamental to their creators, pretty much, right?
yeah. Exactly. Anyway, yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Omni properties of, like, most gods have omni properties.
Right, right, right,
At least for the Abrahamic deities.
right. Abrahamic
David Hume was
deities, pretty
obviously
much.
talking mainly about the Abrahamic deities, I would imagine. This is mainly a counter to that. Um, Certain other deities that are limited in power may not be hit upon by this argument, may remain untouched to some extent. You know, we have a comment.
Right. You want to go for it? Should I read?
I
Mudadaku.
think you will have to
Thank.
read because I don't know what that says.
Yeah, Mudadaku is here. Yeah, seeing you after a long time. So good to see you again. ए ईमान वालो, या तो एक्स मुस्लिम हो जाओ, या जजिया दो, या जंग के लिए तैयार हो जाओ. that's a kind of a jibe at this Mormon brothers. Basically, he's saying that oh people with faith, either you become ex-Muslims or you pay the jizya, or get ready for a battle, basically.
I see. Okay.
Right.
All
Okay.
right.
And here's another one. Hello, panelists. Hello to you, Mudadaku. Sure. Madan, go ahead, please.
Yeah. I'm sure Mududaku is joking. I just want to reiterate that we don't wish war upon anybody.
Yes, exactly. I mean, he's saying that that as it's a facetious
Yeah.
statement, comment rather. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. I mean, unless you attack me, I have no problem. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
But what was I gonna say now?
All right, no worries. I'll pose a few more general objections to this argument, and then
Well,
Madan, if
Hume's not
you
finished, by the way. Hume's not finished. He's not. He's
hmm?
not finished. Hume is not finished with this.
Okay, yeah, please go
Right.
ahead. Right.
Do you want to hold your general objections back for now, or do you want to go? Do you want to
No,
try
no,
and
no,
now?
no. Just I was saying that if you're thinking through what you are gonna say about Hume, then I'll throw in some general objections. But I'm pretty sure Hume is gonna cover all those objections that I was gonna throw at anyways, right? So
Yeah. So Hume also argued that in order to continue to mock the analogy, he said also by analogy, if we follow the rule of analogy and we're comparing how human beings and create objects, create structures, create highways, create buildings, create watches, we're comparing that to the universe, because the universe is also very intricate and orderly, and therefore the universe is a designer. If we're forced to follow the watchmaker argument, then we also know that these sort of objects, watches and so on, are usually, not all the time, but usually, especially the more complex they are, the more intricate it is, the larger it is. Yeah. And he obviously goes beyond the watch to suggest any sort of human design. It tends to have a multiplicity, a number of manufacturers and designers. It's not just a single individual being, but lots of them, right? Companies or corporations, factories, and so on. So it's not as though there's only one single individual designer. It's that you have, miners, you've got the artist, you've got the actual manufacturer or manufacturers who consist of electricians and mechanists, machinists, sorry, and you have different people with different specializations working on the project. And he's obviously talking about in a 17th, 18th century context, and it applies now as well. You have a multiplicity of different people grouping together, making things. A skyscraper requires multiple men to make. So he says,
right.
he
Yes.
said, yeah,
Go
he
ahead. Go
goes,
ahead.
yeah, makes the argument. Therefore, if we are to bite the bullet and say, okay, and that these sort of analogies work, we can make an analogy from our experience of how objects are created, and then extrapolate that to natural objects or seemingly natural objects. Then we should be consistent and go down the tunnel of this analogy, and also go, but these objects, or these other objects that human beings create, come with organizations, groups, a congregation of people who make them, and therefore we should also lift that principle that objects are created by lots of people, a collective body of people, collective body of minds, and say that the universe therefore was also created by a collective body of minds, and therefore that also disproves theism, because you get to not even polytheism, because in the first, as you know, in the first objection, a infinite God was ruled out. So you get more like some form of polytheism, you could say, but not the typical type of polytheism.
It's a panoply of gods basically.
Yes. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
limited gods again. Yes.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
abhi tak Mahdin, shall I just
Go for it.
just
Go
go
for
through a
it.
little bit of Hindi. So Mahdin ने जो एक और ऑब्जेक्शन जो ह्यूम ने पोस्ट की है उसके बारे में बताएं कि जितनी भी चीज़ें हमें डिज़ाइन दिखती हैं बेसिकली बिल्डिंग्स हो गई है, रेलवेज हो गई हैं, इंजन्स हो गए, वट एवर यू हैव राइट, वो हमें डिज़ाइन दिखती हैं, पर उसका सबसे बड़ा फंडामेंटल कंपोनेंट ये है कि उसका जो एक एक पार्ट है वो एक किसी एक इंसान ने नहीं बनाया, उसके पीछे पूरी की पूरी एक असेंबली लाइन लगी हुई है बेसिकली, राइट। असेंबली लाइन में पीछे कोई कुछ बना रहा है, आगे कुछ कोई और कुछ बना रहा है, ऐड कर रहा है, तो उसमें कोई एक बनाने वाला नहीं है, उसमें हजारों लोग एक चीज को बनाने में लगे। जितनी ज्यादा कॉम्प्लेक्स होती जाएगी आप समझ लो कि उसको बनाने वाले उतने ही ज्यादा होते जाएं। माइनर्स हैं, माइन से वो अपना मेटल निकाल रहे हैं या जो भी एलिमेंट्स निकाल रहे हैं, उसके बाद उसकी प्रोसेसिंग हो रही है, आके फाइनली वो तैयार होती है एज अ वॉच प्रीटी मच आप मान लो। तो महादिन ने जो बताया, जो डेविड ह्यूम का आर्गुमेंट है और जो आज की डेट में भी वैलिड है प्रीटी मच, ह्यूम ने 17th 18th सेंचुरी में लिखा था पर आज भी जो वैलिड है, कि ये जो है अगर इससे आप कोई भी चीज़ प्रूव कर सकते हो, तो पहली आर्गुमेंट के थ्रू हमने प्रूव किया कि वो जो भी है अगर वो सिंगल एंटिटी है तो वो इनफाइनाइट नहीं हो सकती, वो लिमिटेड ही होगी। लेकिन यहाँ पे क्या प्रूव हो रहा है, यहाँ पे ये प्रूव हो रहा है कि जो बनाने वाले हैं वो मल्टीपल हैं। इसका मतलब कि ये आप पॉलीथीइज्म कहीं ना कहीं से आपका शायद प्रूव हो सकता है, वो भी लिमिटेड गॉड्स बेसिकली, नॉट ऑल द गॉड्स हैव सेम पावर बेसिकली। ऑलराइट
Yeah.
महादन।
Absolutely, yeah. So there'll be a multiple body of designers, and they're working together or in conflict. Maybe it's cooperative to create the universe. And then he goes further, and I'm going to be very quick, much quicker with the next point because I think everybody now knows what I'm doing. He's just sticking to the very core, the essence of the analogy making. He's saying, all right, we're going to keep biting the bullet. Right, and saying,
राइट,
all right,
he's bringing every aspect। वो अपने डेविड ह्यूम यहाँ क्या कर रहा है कि अपने जो आर्गुमेंट की हर एक एस्पेक्ट को बिल्कुल माइक्रोस्कोप से एनालाइज कर रहा है प्रीटी मच, और
yeah,
एनालॉजी को बिल्कुल टू द टी फॉलो कर रहा
yes,
है।
yeah, exactly. So he made the argument, but certain goods that are created by human beings that have damage to it, have limits to it, which break apart, will fall apart. They tend to be created by either unscrupulous or incompetent or even malicious creators, right?
राइट,
Lazy creators, fanatical, lunatic-like creators, insane creators, the mad scientist or something. And he made the argument then, well, again, let's borrow the principle from experience. If we experience imperfections in designed objects, like watches that look damaged, that break apart, then the creator obviously has some issues. He's either incompetent or malicious or something like that, right? If for example a vehicle is created that breaks down, it's definitely not an unlimited and all powerful manufacturer that created it. It's a man of limited knowledge, and furthermore, if it breaks down at a point where we just think this is just silly, if it like the tire falls off, or there's a car without a tire, entirely without a tire, we're going to think this manufacturer is incompetent or malicious. And David Hume made the same argument with the universe. When you look at the universe, there are some seeming imperfections. For example, human beings. Some human beings are born without the full components of the heart. Some human beings are born without eyeballs. Some human beings are born without arms. Disabilities, human disabilities. There are other cognitive defects. One in five out of 10 childbirths historically led to death. Miscarriages are commonplace, etc., etc. You can think about all the apparent imperfections of the human anatomy, the human physiology, and so on, and make a comparison and go, wait a minute. If human beings, when making things and which have imperfections, we conclude that the creator was therefore incompetent or malicious or lazy or something like that, we should also, staying to the letter of the law, if the theist wants to make the analogy, we should also make the analogy that indeed this creator of the world was incompetent, evil, unscrupulous, or lazy, or something like that, or many incompetent, lazy, unscrupulous, evil creators, and that's what he concluded.
ऑलराइट सो मादिन यहाँ पे जो कह रहा है वो बिल्कुल सही है। अगर डेविड ह्यूम कहता है कि अगर चलो हम इस एनालॉजी को और फर्दर ले जाते हैं और कहता है कि हम ज़िंदगी में देखते हैं कि बहुत सारी चीज़ें ऐसी हैं जो कि डिज़ाइनी एतबार से बहुत टाइम पे फेल कर जाती। कई चीज़ें थोड़ी लंबी चल जाती, कई चीज़ें लेकिन फेल भी कर जाती और बहुत ज़्यादा फेल कर जाती हैं। सपोज कर लो आपने एक एप्पल का लैपटॉप लिया, राइट? आपके फ्रेंड ने लैपटॉप सेम टाइम पे लिया, सेम एप्पल के मैन्युफैक्चरर से लिया। मैं एनालॉजी मेरी शायद हो सकता है सही नहीं बैठा है, पर हो सकता है कि उसका लैपटॉप चल रहा है 10 साल के लिए चल रहा है और आपका 2 साल में ही फेल हो गया, राइट? तो अगर मान लो कि वो मशीन से मैन्युफैक्चर नहीं है और उसको बनाने वाले इंसान है, राइट, पीछे, तो ये बता रहा है कि जिसने 2 साल में फेल होने वाला बनाया वो कहीं ना कहीं से वो इनकम्पिटेंट था, वो बनाने वाला। अगर इसी एनालॉजी को आप ऊपर ले जाओगे खुदा की तरफ से डिज़ाइन में, तो आप इंसानों को अगर देखोगे तो इंसानों की जो ऐसा अगर किसी खुदा ने उनको डिज़ाइन किया है, डिज़ाइनर है कोई, तो यार उनके तो बड़े सारे मसले रहते हैं। कई बार बच्चे पैदा होते हैं, आपने ये देखे होंगे जो ट्विंस होते हैं जो कई बार जुड़े रहते हैं एक दूसरे से, है ना? उनको क्या बोलते हैं, मैं नाम भूल गया उनका, राइट? साइमिस ट्विंस, राइट, साइमिस ट्विंस कहते हैं उनको, राइट? तो साइमिस ट्विंस पैदा हो जाते हैं, या
No
यू नो
arms, sometimes without an
इक्तियोसिस
arm.
एंड ऑल दोस काइंड ऑफ जो प्रॉब्लम्स है, जो बहुत सारी प्रॉब्लम्स होती हैं, तो वो पैदाइशी जो है वो कई बच्चे जो हैं 10 में से 5 बच्चे एक ज़माने में मर जाया करते थे। उसके बाद वो जब तक वैक्सीन वगैरह नहीं आई थी तब तक तो वो बहुत ही ज़्यादा बच्चे मारे जाते हैं। तो अगर यही आप आर्गुमेंट लगाओगे उस क्रिएटर पे या उस डिज़ाइनर पे, तो आप ये कंक्लूड आपको करना पड़ेगा फॉर द सेक ऑफ एनालॉजी कि वो जो डिज़ाइनर है वो इनकम्पिटेंट है, मैलिशियस है, या फेलियर है, या लेजी है बेसिकली। राइट महादन?
Yes, or evil, yeah, evil.
या फिर evil है, राइट, या फिर
Yeah,
evil है वो ऐसा।
yeah. In fact, he made the argument that because most objects, he says, inductively speaking, when you take like a representative sample of objects that were created by man, if they have a sufficient number of imperfection in such that when they come out of the factory, it looks like it was deliberately engineered in a way that causes that particular thing to be harmful to people, then we would think that the manufacturer was deliberately putting it there to be like that. And Hume stressed then it is likely to be not just an incompetent creator of the universe or creator of the human anatomy, but is likely to be an evil, malicious creator, because induction shows. Because again, the clock watchmaker argument is pretty much an inductive argument. It's induction. You're looking at watches. What watches come with a creator, and therefore you look at a heart. The heart therefore also comes from a creator. It's an inductive leap, inductive generalization.
Right, exactly. It's an inductive argument, right?
Yeah.
True.
So he follows induction himself. Hume
Right,
follows the
right.
induction himself, and he says, inductively speaking, things like watches, things like manufactured objects, that humans create, if they would have this many deliberate sort of flaws in it, then we can only assume that the creator was like a psychopath, right? And he makes the argument that therefore this is not just stupidity or idiocy on part of or incompetency on part of the creator. This is more likely to be an evil deity. You see that? Yeah.
All right, Mahdin. Yeah, I was on mute. तो मादन ने ये जो अभी लास्ट बताया वही कि जिस तरह से ये आप एनालॉजी लगा रहे हो और देखोगे उस तरह से, तो उस तरह से ये नज़र आता है कि ये जो डिज़ाइनर है ये मैलिशियस ज़्यादा नज़र आता है उस एतबार से, pretty much, right?
Yeah, just leave it there. But I think because that's the weakest part of Hume's argument, because it's harder to show. I think, because I don't think you can successfully show that it's indeed malicious over incompetent or combination of the two. I don't know how
Right, right.
he suggests that he can, you'll have to look deeper into his book to see if it's persuasive enough. I'll just say two, three more points that Hume raised because we've started it, and then we can close, or you can come out with some objections and we can close. Yeah.
Right. Sure.
Yes, and Hume also, by the way, regarding the evil or incompetent argument that Hume made from analogy, here's the beautiful thing about this argument. It avoids all arguments about mysterious gods or skeptical theism. Now, if you know, if viewers know, or you probably know, Philo, there is an argument called skeptical theism, which is in defense of the problem of evil. That is, it makes the argument that we cannot, given our limited senses, from our inductive surveys of the evidence, through our observations of evil, conclude that this apparent evil that we're observing, means that there cannot be a designer or a God who is all good and all powerful. We can't rule it out like that. And the reason we can't rule it out, this apparent inconsistency between the world, which has seemingly evil phenomena, and this benevolent, all-powerful creator, we can't rule it out precisely because we can't rely on induction to make those inductive generalizations. Why? Because we're finite, and the creator of the universe is infinite, right? He might have knowledge beyond us. Furthermore, we've only seen a small sample of data. We can't see the future. We also, because we've only seen a small sample of data, we cannot extrapolate beyond our limited means. And different people have made different arguments about this. You would say, some people, like William Lane Craig would say, we don't have a representative sample of apparent evil to make the conclusion that this tiny evil that we're watching rules out an infinite God. And furthermore, some other people would make the argument that
infinitely good God, right?
Infinitely good God, yeah.
Other people. So Mahdin जो कह रहा है, Mahdin, sorry, I'm gonna take a minute or two.
Can I just finish to explain why I'm talking about this?
Okay, sure, go for it.
The thing about David Hume's argument is that he says, you can't do this. Yeah, because when you make the watchmaker argument, you're relying on induction.
Right, exactly. That's the point.
You can't say analogies work, and then when we make an analogy with an evil God or evil creator, you go, now we can't conclude anything. No, we have to be to the letter of the law, right? And he makes the argument that if induction works to say that there is a creator, because watchmakers have a creator, and therefore the heart has a creator, then induction should also work to say the creator is evil, because when we look at the sample of creators on earth who make design in this particular way, evil or incompetent, when we look at the sample of creators who make incompetent or troublesome design, we also
malicious design, right?
Yeah, malicious or seemingly malicious design. It correlates, or it comes together with, when we investigate, a genuine incompetent expert, or genuine incompetent creator, or a genuinely evil creator, or a combination of two. Now, if we're going with the letter of the analogy, then we can't now appeal to mystery or skeptical theism anymore. We have to remain within the rules of the game, which is we're making analogies, and therefore skeptical theism cannot be used as a defense anymore. Yeah. So that's the reason I'm raising that. If you feel I want to talk about that, it's a bit more complicated.
Right. I'll try to run through it in Hindi, right? A little bit. Yeah. So David Hume की एक और argument थी इसी एतबार से, और वो थी skeptical theism को लेके. और skeptical theism क्या है basically? इसकी एनालॉजी थोड़ा सा शायद हो सकता है मेरे को समझाने में थोड़ा टाइम लगेगा, पर अगर ये कहा जाए किसी से, आप थियस्ट से कहेंगे कि देखो ये दुनिया में बहुत सारा ईविल है, राइट, और आप उस ईविल को दिखा के आप कहते हो कि ये जो ईविल है, तो इसका मतलब अगर आप इंडक्टिवली आप इसको आगे ले जाओगे तो आपको जो क्रिएटर इसके पीछे जो मिलेगा, या जो खालिक कायनात जो आपको मिलेगा, वो या तो कहीं ना कहीं से इनकम्पिटेंट है, लेजी है, या फिर लेजी नहीं, इनकम्पिटेंट है, या मेलिशियस है, या ईविल है, बेसिकली आप ये कह सकते हो, राइट। तो थियस्ट आपको बोलेगा कि नहीं नहीं नहीं, ये हम इसको कंक्लूड नहीं कर सकते क्योंकि हम लिमिटेड बीइंग्स हैं, हम लोगों की समझ उतनी नहीं है, और हम नहीं समझ सकते गॉड का माइंड क्या है। गॉड इनफाइनाइट है, राइट, हमारा क्रिएटर इनफाइनाइट है, तो हम नहीं जानते इस चीज़ के बारे में, हम कुछ कह नहीं सकते क्योंकि गॉड तो इनफाइनाइट है, हम लिमिटेड है, हम कैसे इससे कंक्लूड कर सकते हैं। तो इसका डेविड ह्यूम आर्गुमेंट ये देता है बेसिकली कि भाई जब आप क्रिएटर को, डिजाइनर को आप एस्टेब्लिश कर रहे थे ब्लाइंड वॉच मेकर आर्ग्यूमेंट से, तो आप क्या कर रहे थे, आप इंडक्शन इस्तेमाल कर रहे थे, राइट। और आपने उस इंडक्शन को इस्तेमाल करके आपने कहा कि नहीं, क्रिएटर एग्जिस्ट करना चाहिए। आपने कहा कि ये वॉच है, ये डिज़ाइन लगती है, तो मैं इंडक्शन यूज़ कर रहा हूँ, मेरे हिसाब से आप जो भी चीज़ें डिज़ाइन लगती हैं वो किसी मखलूक ने बनाई हुई है, तो इसका मतलब वो उसका कोई डिज़ाइनर है या क्रिएटर है कोई। तो उसी एतबार से आपने कहा कि ये मुझे कायनात जो है वो डिज़ाइन लगती है, इंसान उसके अंदर जो है मखलूक है वो भी मेरे को डिज़ाइन लगता है, तो उनको डिज़ाइन करने वाला, क्रिएट करने वाला कोई होगा। अगर आपने यहाँ पे इंडक्शन यूज़ करके क्रिएटर को आपने एस्टेब्लिश किया है, तो जब आपको इस रूल को फॉलो करते हुए, टू द टी इस रूल को फॉलो करते हुए, जब कोई आपको ये आर्गुमेंट देता है कि आप सीमिंगली आपको इस दुनिया में ईविल दिखता है, राइट, मलिशियस कई बार आपको इंटेंट दिखते हैं सीमिंगली, तो आपको फिर ये कंक्लूड भी करना चाहिए इंडक्टिवली कि इसके पीछे जो बनाने वाला है या तो वो इनकम्पिटेंट रहा है, उसने कहीं कह सकते हो कि कोई उसके हाथ से चाय का प्याला गिर गया, उसका इंटेंशन नहीं था पर गिर गया, ठीक है, और वो उसने सारी गंदगी फैला दी, या फिर वो डेफिनेटली वो मलेशियस है या ईविल है। ऑलराइट मादन।
Yeah, brilliant. That was a good translation. That I think. Yeah, I'm going to be very quick now, just to finish off David Hume because I don't want to go too long. Yeah,
Sure, sure.
a few more things. You've made the argument as well that obviously the designer is also intricate and complex, right, and sophisticated and organized, and therefore the very famous objection, "Who created the designer?" comes along, right? And if
Right.
it is the case that complex, organized, clockwork-like things, intelligence requires a designer, then God or a creator or non-God creators, any sort of mind, mentality, being that can create things is obviously very intelligent as well, very complex as well, very intricate as well. He has attributes to create and so on. That has some sort of organization. And if it is the case that organized things, complex things, intricate things as creators, just like the watchmaker, then obviously you have to apply the same principle to the creator. And so he made the argument that therefore the creator has a creator, but then that creator has a creator, and then that creator has a creator. And then he said, then you have an infinite regress, right? And he wanted to show the absurdity of this, saying that,
Right.
yeah, and that if you can't have an infinite regress of creators, then you're going to stop somewhere, and therefore there's going to be something that is uncreated, that is designed. And he again implied exactly, if you're going to say the creator is uncreated without design, then why can't you just say the cosmos, the universe, is uncreated without design? You know, he foreshadowed this ages ago. It's amazing, isn't it? Like in the 17th, 18th century, he laid it all
Right.
out.
I think you're probably one of the
Yeah.
to be honest, I haven't read much of Hume, and I would
Mhm.
love to. But then whatever I have heard of him and read here and there, he seems to have been really far away from his time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was amazing. When you read that, it was eye opening. You know, all the things that I'm saying, they're very, very clever. It's very clever. You know, it's very simple but clever at the same time. It's so
Right. Right.
obvious. It's like everything that I'm saying is very obvious, isn't it?
Right.
Commonsensical.
Right.
Nobody thinks about it like that, right? It's
Right. Right.
that level of detail. And you think
Yeah,
once you
it's gone much deeper into these arguments, way deeper than anyone would usually do, pretty much. Yeah.
yeah.
सो मादिन ने जो अभी ये आर्गुमेंट दी थी, उसने इस इस अ, इस एतबार से बताया कि कोई भी चीज़ अगर डिज़ाइंड है बेसिकली, तो उसका जो डिज़ाइनर होगा वो और भी कॉम्प्लिकेटेड होगा और भी कॉम्प्लेक्स होगा। ये आप देखते आ रहे हो, राइट? या ये एक एनालॉजी है आपकी। तो ह्यूम आर्ग्यू करता है कि अगर सपोज कर लो ये दिस इज द केस कि हाँ, ये जो चीज़ डिज़ाइन है उसको डिज़ाइन करने वाला और भी कॉम्प्लेक्स है, राइट? तो यही चीज़ अगर आप फिर किसी खालिक कायनात के बारे में सोच रहे हो, तो वो अगर कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है या वो और कॉम्प्लेक्स है बेसिकली अपनी उसमें, तो वो भी कहीं ना कहीं से डिज़ाइन होगा, या उसको भी किसी न किसी ने डिज़ाइन किया होगा, उसका भी कोई डिज़ाइनर होगा। तो अगर वो उस डिज़ाइनर का कोई डिज़ाइनर है, तो इस तरह से ये आपकी एक इन्फिनिट रिग्रेस आ जाएगी कि डिज़ाइनर का डिज़ाइनर, डिज़ाइनर का डिज़ाइनर, और फिर ये आप इस रिग्रेस से बच नहीं पाओगे। तो वो कहता है कि जब आप वहाँ पे जाते नहीं हो और आप कहते हो कि नहीं ये एक अल्टीमेट कोई एक डिज़ाइनर है, यहाँ पे आप रुक जाते हो, तो व्हाई नॉट स्टॉप एट द कॉस्मोस, व्हाई नॉट कंसीड दैट, ये क्यों ना मान दिया जाए कि सिर्फ ये कायनात जो है वो डिजाइन है, बस वहीं पे रुक गया है।
Yeah,
महादेव।
exactly. There's two more points that he made, and I'm going to be very quick with these. Very very quick, because he also made the point that then now he's kind of stepping away from the analogy, right? And he's saying, look, we can't make analogies like this, right? And all this time he's talking about taking the analogy to its full throttle, to its logical conclusions. Now he's stepping away from the analogy and he's attacking the very methodology of the analogy making. And he's saying we can't use analogies like this because we see human beings creating watches within the universe, right? We have never seen, however, what is beyond the universe that creates the universe, if anything. In other words, we are making a hazy generalization fallacy. That is when the sample size is too small, and then we make an extrapolation from that small sample size to make a massive generalization. It could be, for example, I meet 5 men, 5 men are smoking, and I make a hazy generalization that all men smoke. But that's not a representative sample of, it might not be a representative sample of the general population to make that sort of extrapolation. That's like a hazy generalization. And he pretty much implies in his writings, core writings, Hume says that it's too small of an inductive sample to make the leap from that humans create watches, clocks, and buildings, and therefore the universe is also created. Yeah, reason being, you're talking about things that happen within the universe, and that's too tiny of a sample to talk about things that everything else, including that which is outside of the universe, because the universe obviously will have, if it has a cause, that cause will have to be outside of it. And to say that that cause will have to follow the same rules within the universe, well, we don't know that. In other words, it's too small of a sample to make any conclusions. And furthermore, Hume also, in addition to that, argued, kind of given a kind of a glimpse of a natural argument of foreshadowing what would soon later be discovered as Darwinian mechanisms of evolution, right? He makes the simple argument that although watches are created by creators, certain things grow naturally through natural events, through blind forces, like the plants, right? Like rocks that form and so on, like a leaf, like a shard of grass or something like that. And these things don't follow that. In fact, what I can do now to answer what Hume is saying here is that why are we going from the analogy from humans creating clocks? Why are we going from clocks and humans and so on, and ignoring the rest of the causes? For example, we could have easily just gone from the other side and said, look, plants grow naturally, rocks form naturally, yeah, and thereby by analogy, watches have natural causes. You see that? So the analogy could have been the other way around. He could have said, since
the reverse analogy, right?
Exactly. And that obviously doesn't make sense. So why should it make sense to say, since clocks have manufacturers, therefore plants have manufacturers? It shouldn't. And he makes the argument, look, a very tiny sample of things have manufacturers, that the things that humans make. The rest of everything else is forming naturally. And he therefore foreshadowed a mechanism of Darwin, because he was talking about in the context. By the way, when Hume was writing, although he talked about natural objects, he mainly focused on the human body, creatures, and he foreshadowed Darwinian evolution when he said there's probably a natural process to explain that. And yeah, he was correct. So those are the final kind of objections that David Hume makes.
ऑलराइट, तो मैं लास्ट ह्यूम की ऑब्जेक्शन जो महादेव ने बताई है वो बता देता हूँ। ह्यूम फिर इस एनोलॉजी से बाहर आ जाता है। एक्चुअली जो एनोलॉजी अभी हम जो आर्गुमेंट्स पहले कर रहे थे इसके पहले, वो जो ह्यूम कर रहा था वो पूरी एनालॉजी के बेस पे कर रहा था कि ओके लेट्स टेक द एनालॉजी एट द टी to the very T and then argue whether a creator or designer can exist or not. अब वो उस एनालॉजी से बाहर आ जाता है और कहता है कि चलो हमारे पास एक सैम्पल साइज है कि ये इंसान कार बनाते हैं, इंसान डीजल इंजन्स बनाते हैं, इंसान या मखलूक जो है वो हवाई जहाज बनाते हैं और ये डिज़ाइनर है, राइट? तो उस एतबार से आपने कह लिया, पर आपके पास यहाँ पे बहुत लिमिटेड सैम्पल साइज है। पहली चीज़ तो ये सारी चीज़ें इस कायनात के अंदर हो रही हैं। अब अगर ये यूनिवर्स बना भी है, इसका कोई कॉज भी है, तो वो कॉज इस यूनिवर्स के बाहर है। आपके पास इसको कहने के लिए कोई भी सैंपल साइज नहीं है कि वो यूनिवर्स को बनाने वाला कोई है या कोई नहीं है, कुछ भी नहीं कह सकते। तो आपने ये जो इंडक्टिव रीजनिंग यहाँ पे लगाई है ह्यूम के अकॉर्डिंग, ये इंडक्टिव रीजनिंग जो है ये सही नहीं है, ये फिट नहीं है, क्योंकि आपके पास जो सैंपल साइज है बहुत ही लिमिटेड है बेसिकली यहाँ पे। और व्हाट वाज द सेकंड आर्गुमेंट महादन यू गेव?
The second argument was that just like you can make analogies with clocks, you can make analogies with nature. And unlike clocks, plants and
Right,
bodies
right. हाँ, right, you're right,
adaptable, and
Mahdan.
any foreshadowed evolution by doing that.
right.
Yeah.
ओके, सो दूसरी आर्गुमेंट इसके बेसिस पे ये भी थी कि बहुत सारी चीज़ें जो हैं ह्यूम ने कही कि बहुत सारी चीज़ें ऐसी हैं जो नेचर में बहुत कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है, पर वो नेचुरल कॉजेज से आती हैं। उसमें आप कह सकते हो बहुत ही इंट्रिकेटली डिज़ाइंड रॉक पैटर्न से, आप चाहे तो आप ग्रैंड कैनियन में चले जाओ या जायन नेशनल पार्क में चले जाओ, कहीं पे भी आपको बहुत इंट्रिकेट डिज़ाइन पैटर्न्स मिल जाएंगे। ईरान में जशक माउंटेन्स की जो फॉर्मेशन है वो आप अगर देखेंगे बहुत इंट्रिकेट डिज़ाइन, स्नोफ्लेक्स को आप ले लो, वो बहुत इंट्रिकेट डिज़ाइन। तो आप रिवर्स एनोलॉजी भी लगा सकते हो, आप ये कह सकते हो कि यार ये इतनी इंट्रिकेट डिज़ाइंस जो हैं ये नेचुरली आ जाती हैं, तो ये क्लॉक भी जो है, ये वॉच जो है, ये भी नेचुरली एग्जिस्टेंस में आ गई होगी। तो ये एक रिवर्स एनोलॉजी हो गई बेसिकली बताने के लिए कि कितना एब्सर्ड है कि आप ये पॉजिटिव एनोलॉजी लगा रहे हो, पर अगर आप इसको रिवर्स में लगाओगे तो बड़ी एब्सर्ड सी एनोलॉजी लगेगी आपको एक तरह से। तो इसका यही वो है, क्या कहना चाहिए, इसका कंक्लूजन यही है कि ये एनोलॉजी लगाने का कोई वो नहीं है, ये एनोलॉजी एब्सर्ड सी लगती है प्रीटी मच। अगर आप टू द टी इसको लगाएं, इवन आप अगर इसको बाहर भी आके अगर इसको लगाने की सोचें तब भी ये काम नहीं करती बेसिकली। मादिन?
Yeah, exactly. And they have natural processes, and he foreshadows. He says just like the leaf has a natural cause, it grows out the ground and it has natural causes. So would probably the human body, and he was right in that we found out natural selection explains it, genetics explains how the human body formed.
राइट,
Yeah.
राइट। और जो एक और ह्यूम ने बात कही कि बोले जैसे नेचुरल प्रोसेसेस हैं, लीफ हो गई या प्लांट्स हो गए या ये हो गए, इनके सबके नेचुरल प्रोसेसेस हैं बेसिकली, वो कहीं ना कहीं नेचर से राइज करती है। तो जो स्पेसिफिकली ये अगर एनालॉजी आप ह्यूमंस कहाँ से आए उसके लिए अगर आप लगाने जाएं, तो आप ये भी बोल सकते हो कि जिस तरह से प्लांट्स आ रहे हैं या स्नोफ्लेक्स या कॉम्प्लिकेटेड डिज़ाइन जो हैं वो नेचर के थ्रू आ रही हैं, तो फिर ह्यूमंस क्यों नहीं आ सकते बेसिकली। एंड ये जो सब चीज़ें हैं ये उस टाइम के आसपास की बात है जब डार्विनियन एवोल्यूशन ऑलरेडी फिर 1850s के आसपास, आई थिंक 1853 के आसपास डार्विन ने डार्विनियन एवोल्यूशन के ऊपर अपना पेपर लिखा था, बुक लिखी थी बेसिकली।
Yes.
राइट माधव?
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. That's Hume's arguments against design, and I think it was pretty devastating, and it still holds true today. These points, I think, at least the first, apart from the last 2 or 3 points, I think the first series of points are very comedic, very hilarious, very funny, and very very intriguing. And anybody who's reading it and reads his book, they'll find it very engaging because very well thought out. And I think they hold true, and not many arguments are made in that sense. Hume's arguments are quite forgotten. A lot of people don't argue it like that, because if it's argued like that, it's very airtight, and it creates a difficult problem for at least modern day theists, because especially lay theists, those who are not philosophically inclined, they are completely untrained to deal with this, right?
Right.
They will be gobsmacked by the conclusions that they come to, that the argument from design actually defeats theism, because it just proves like a finite, incompetent, malicious designer who might have like finite traits, like non-eternal life, and it might die. It might be dead already.
Right. Might not be as powerful as we think. Probably
It
just maybe,
may not even exist anymore.
yeah,
Might have an
may have
expiry
died.
date.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe like an alien somewhere. And that's all you can get from it. And then
Right.
furthermore, it probably is evil, and that's completely the opposite of the conclusion that theism wants to make. And then the
Yeah,
last couple
not the benevolent one that you think.
yeah, and then the last couple of points would say that even that being would have to have a creator, but then then you end up with a regress, and you try to stop the regress, then you're actually saying that it has to stop at some complex being that doesn't have a designer. But then if you're going to admit that, then you have an inconsistency. Then you're actually saying not all complex objects have to have designers. Then how do you know that doesn't apply to the cosmos? And then you just stop designers in the first place. So he destroys these arguments very, very convincingly. And then the last couple of points about, that it can be nature, he actually shows that. So if you can see, he's presenting a story, right? And in the last couple of points, he's saying that, okay, then if the cosmos just doesn't need a designer, then how? And he's saying, first of all, the methodology you used to conclude a design in the first place is flawed. It's a very, very small sample. Secondly, the other things that cause rocks, cause mountains, cause eyes, cause plants, and so on, is natural.
Snowflakes and all those things. Yeah, those are natural. All yeah.
So now it brings it back to an explanation that is more satisfying, and it's brilliant, isn't it? So it's like a really good tour de force, going from one thing to another and then demolishing.
See, one more thought experiment that can be done on this whole design argument is think it this way, right? Think about an alien race who sees. After all, if you just think about the modern science, right? Everything in the universe is composed of the very basic things, right? You can say those are quarks, right? Up quark, whatever, leptons, and a few more things, right? Maybe 4 basic fundamental things, right? Now imagine an alien race, right? Who can see things more complicated way, even the simplest things. Suppose neon gas, right? For us, neon gas is just neon gas, bunch of atoms and molecules, right? Pretty much, right? Suppose that alien race sees a very complicated structure in that, right? Now it's different to us. For us, that neon gas is probably very simplistic. For that, it is very complicated. Now imagine on the other side, there is a race or something, someone who can perceive this universe in bare atoms, pretty much, right? It doesn't see any structure, right? Just imagine there is something like that, right? Whatever, whether it's complicated or not is not the question, but it perceives the universe as very, very basic, right? So it doesn't seem designed to it because it's very, very simplistic, right? So this could be argued that probably we are seeing it the way we are seeing it because we think it is complicated, but maybe it is, after all, not as complicated as we think it is, because that's our own perspective, pretty much.
Yeah. True. And Hume indicates that in the first part, when he's mocking and going to the letter of the law of the analogy, that these kind of available objections that a theist might have, just like what you said, that there might be differences, right? If there is a designer, he might not obey the same rules, he might be different. You can't do that anymore, because when you follow the analogy, you just have to make the analogy to the small sample of humans that we've seen on this tiny little planet called Earth, right? And make the similar parallels. I mean, the theist or anybody might be thirsty to say exactly things like you've been saying, that, well, these aliens might have different characteristics. Yeah, but Hume is trying to say, no, stay focused on the analogy. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Yeah, and then when he later on goes on to say, all right, let's abandon the analogy. Yeah, because it's a small sample of things. He's also deriding and mocking the theist, in the sense that when the theist wants to say that the creator might not have to follow the same rules, they might perceive reality differently, and so on and so forth. Yeah,
right.
He's also the theist is also implying that we can't just make these analogies. So can you see, kind of like, he's conceding that, making the theist concede that the analogy is weak, right? Because
exactly,
in the one sense, he wants to say, just like watches, there has to be a designer. But then why do you not follow through? Because the theist is then backing out and going, no, actually, it might be different. There might be different things out there. We don't know what's going out there, mysterious
Oh,
God and
right, right.
powers. Then because, all right, okay, if you want it like that,
You
then
can't have your cake
what
and
if
eat it too, basically.
yeah, what if the same is the case for design? What if like design objects, natural objects don't have to follow those rules? If just like God can follow his own rules and be different and different characteristics, and we have little limited knowledge, what if nature has its own rules as well, etc.? That's what he's implying. So he's kind of getting this kind of uh, fight between using an analogy, but then trying to run away from the analogy, and then Hume's forcing the analogy back in their face, but then also saying, all right, let's take the analogy away. But if you take the analogy away, then everything else falls apart, because then we can also say all this stuff.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
you get rid of the clock watchmaker analogy in the first place. Why should this principle apply to the universe? It's too small, as
So,
you have admitted,
right,
theist.
right.
That's what he's trying to say.
Right. So, Madan, what I have noticed is that now this kind of blind watchmaker analogy and this basically a form of design argument has kind of fallen off favor of theists, basically. Not now,
Mm.
what they are focusing mostly on is another form of design argument that's called the fine tuning argument. So what
Yeah.
we'll do is right now we are not going to go into it.
No.
We're going to keep our
Yes.
audience and listeners waiting for another stream for that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
now that has taken favor, because most of the times that I go to other channels and discuss this with muftis and mostly kind of so-called Islamic scholars, and they have it has gone out of favor for them pretty much, but they still use fine tuning,
Yes.
contingency, and a few other arguments pretty much.
I think
Yeah.
Said still uses the original watchmaker argument, but it's not like a watchmaker; it's a curry maker argument. Remember, in the last, Said, if you're watching this, you
Said,
mentioned it.
yeah, I've made the link open. Anybody who wants to say anything for 5 minutes, not more than 5 minutes, maybe even 3 minutes, say anything about this argument, or if they have anything else. We probably wouldn't go deeper into anything else if you have a really long topic in mind.
Mm.
But if you have a small topic in mind, maybe discuss it for a few minutes, or if you just want to say hi, maybe come over, say hi, and you know.
Mm. I
So
can see
if you're
some
listening.
people. Bruh is saying, "Yo, what's up, guys? We're good, bro. What are you doing? How you doing, bro?"
Yo, bro, yeah, yeah. Come on in if you want. Say hi, or maybe ask a question if you have. If you probably want to raise an objection to what we said, or if you want to understand something that you didn't catch on, we'll be happy to explain.
Yeah.
So, Madan, let's wait for maybe a minute or two, or if you want,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can
Oh,
close
that's
the
right.
stream.
Yeah. So,
You are
yeah.
the
So basically,
you have the
next.
reins, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. So a continuation of this particular stream. It might not be the next episode, but we will continue this theme of design argument. And the next one we will tackle will probably be the fine tuning argument. And after that, maybe intelligent design / irreducible complexity. Intelligent design has its own series of different arguments, one of them being irreducible complexity, but that's the main primary one, right? Intelligent design is the movement, but it's all the ideology behind it, and we'll tackle that as well. And there's some other interesting sort of design arguments, but those are kind of the ones. But Hume's argument is so kind of eternal that they do apply to them as well, right? You can say, even with the fine tuner, you can make all these arguments, because in essence, fine tuning is still a argument from analogy. It's not explicitly articulated like an analogy, but how do you know, for example, where do we learn that where do we learn about designers? From our experience, right? And
Right.
ultimately then you can still somehow make the Humean argument against that. And similarly, many things that Hume says about finite beings, it has to be finite or incompetent, you can still make about the fine-tuning argument, even if you embrace the conclusions of the fine-tuning argument.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and the very idea that Hume says that certain things require design, other things are just natural, you can still make that for the fine-tuning argument. So the essence of Hume's argument still in a more sophisticated way still apply to fine-tuning, I would say. Yeah.
Madan, I just wanted to be a devil's advocate here for a minute, maybe, or
Mhm.
for just a few seconds. Yeah,
Go ahead.
and let's say we have given them quite a few examples of things that occur in nature, basically, right? Snowflakes being one, and other things, maybe how rocks form, or certain rock formations, using the due to wind and all those things, or due to water and all those
The
things, right?
stars,
Somebody
for
somebody
example.
could come and say, hey, but that's God doing it, right? The
Mm.
snowflakes are made by a god. How would you know that the god is not making those snowflakes? Tho- those uh, those snowflakes are not designed by God,
Mhm.
right? Somebody might come and argue that.
Right. Well, that kind of begs the question. It's a circular argument because that's
Yeah,
what
it's a,
the
it's a circular argument, right?
yeah, yeah, that's a circular argument. That's the whole point, right? That's what the argument from analogy with the watchmaker is trying to establish. We can't just then presuppose that that's God's doing it, right?
Right. It's
Once
like
you've yeah, once you've unpacked the argument from analogy, and then there's no reason to assume a designer in the first place. The whole point to establish a designer is whether the watchmaker argument is sound. If it's not
exactly,
sound, then we
exactly.
can't assume there's a designer behind anything else other than what we
Right,
know.
right,
So then, just to assume there's a God is just assuming that. Well, what was the point of the argument in the first place then? And the second thing I would say is the look. What would be good evidence of natural processes? If natural processes, the theist has to make it possible and open to falsification that there is a possibility that natural processes might do things, right? Now, what would be good evidence of a natural process? Well, we would see, for example, the state. We'll know about the stages of star formation, how rocks form. We'll learn about it. Isn't that good evidence of nature? Yes. We don't.
right,
Is there a known creator seen in those stages? No. A designer? No. Right now. So whatever's behind the curtain, you can't say that there's a designer behind the curtain doing that. Yeah. In fact, the evidence suggests that there isn't, because at each stage, the more we learn about nature, there's another impersonal causal event explaining it. Something in chemistry, something in physics. That itself is a source of evidence showing that it's coming on its own, right?
right,
Okay.
right.
That's what I'm trying to say. So if you just woke up in the morning one day and you walked out, like that's what people say, skyscrapers don't come together on their own. Skyscrapers are builders. But have a blank state now. Imagine you just came into the earth and you walked out and you saw a skyscraper just form on its own. You'll just accept that as the reality, right? You would just
You'll
accept
just
it.
accept as what? Sorry, your voice broke for a
Sorry.
second.
Okay. I'm saying, imagine now you have a blank slate. Yeah? Tabula
Right?
rasa, the empiricist mindset of a blank slate. You have no knowledge.
Hmm.
And let's say you have no knowledge, but you just woke up from a coma and you have no past memories or anything. And you walk out of the door and you see a skyscraper form on its own.
Right, right.
Yeah, and you see another skyscraper form on its own.
Right.
You just accept that.
You'll imagine that it's a natural cause, basically. Yeah.
Exactly. You just think it's just
Or
normal.
yeah. Or
Not,
I mean, if
not a
but
natural
this
cause. What I'm
it
saying is,
assumes that, yeah, you won't have any assumptions about that because you don't
yeah,
know
you just
anything
think it's
about
just normal.
what caused it. But what you'll
Exactly.
form the basis of it is that, okay, it is there. That's a brute fact, pretty much, that
Yes.
it came into existence. You don't have any
Yes.
idea as to where it came from, basically.
Well, what I'm saying is, if it's forming on its own, then that's it. In other
Yeah,
words,
yeah, that's it.
what I'm
I
trying
mean,
whatever we accept as normal is just based on our experience, right? If the sky was red, we would just think it's red. We won't
right, right,
question it, right? If it rained pigs, then that would just be it. It rains
right,
pigs,
right,
right? And you might think those are funny situations. Well, our situation is probably funny as well, right? Water just leaks out of the sky. We have a
right.
blue atmosphere, right? Well, that's just weird.
Right. That's
No,
just weird for somebody. It's looking at that's who hasn't ever seen a rain. That's funny situation. That might be.
exactly.
Oh, this is weird.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
how come there
Exactly.
is water from the sky?
And what I'm trying to say is, could there be any evidence that things just form on its own? Yeah, our reality that we live in. And if we just woke up and we had no ideas about designed objects and we just explored the universe and looked at how things work, we would just conclude that these things come on its own. Because we don't have any prior knowledge about designers. And that's what I'm
Right,
trying to
right.
say. Yeah, the
Yeah,
rules of
yeah.
rules of the
You have
universe.
very valid point. Yeah.
Yeah, and things are only weird when we compare and contrast it to things. So it's because we're comparing and contrasting it to how designed objects are made, it looks weird, right?
Right, right,
But without that, it wouldn't look weird. And that's what I'm trying to say. The fact that 99.999% of the universe isn't created by any mind, but is created through natural events, is evidence
right,
that
right.
of naturalism, that it happens through blind natural processes. What else would be evidence? Even if that is not evidence of naturalism, then the theist is being unfair and saying you can never have any evidence of naturalism,
Right, right. So
right?
would it be fair to say that the whole the fundamental hinge for the design argument to work is the analogy, right? And if you can
Yeah.
say that the analogy is weak, then your
Mm.
design argument is pretty weak as well.
Yes.
Yeah, you
Yes.
can say that,
Yes. Exactly.
right?
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Right,
Yeah. Yeah. And then when you look at nature and you see that it's natural all the way down, all the way to the Big Bang, yeah,
right, right,
and you learn that nature can actually create design things like through natural selection, then you've got an
right,
alternative to intentional, deliberate, conscious process that can create complex, intricate structures. You've got something like natural selection, and you can adopt that analogy maybe. If you're going to make an analogy, that's another analogy you can make, and even that might fall weak to some of the Humean arguments as well. You can make the argument just like natural selection. Maybe the universe
uh,
has its
Madan.
own natural selection. Yeah.
Madan, sorry, we have comment 59
Mm.
seconds. Love if you convey it in Hindi. सो 59 सेकंड्स थोड़ा सा मैं बता देता हूँ महादिन किस चीज़ के बारे में बात कर रहा है अगर थोड़ा सा स्ट्रीम में पीछे जाके देखेंगे तो हमने काफ़ी देर बीच बीच में हिंदी में में ये आर्गुमेंट जो महादिन जिस चीज़ की बात कर रहा है वो हम लोग ने ये डिज़ाइन आर्गुमेंट की बात की कि डिज़ाइन एक अगर आप वॉच देखते हैं तो आप बोलते हैं ये वॉच का कोई बनाने वाला है तो इस तरह से अगर आप इस कायनात को देखोगे तो थियस कंक्लूड करते हैं कि इस कायनात को बनाने वाला भी कोई होना चाहिए और वो यूजुअली पॉइंट करते हैं कि कोई उसका गॉड है कोई खुदा है वो उनके फ्लेवर वाला गॉड होता है चाहे वो इस्लाम का खुदा हो गया या क्रिश्चियनिटी का यावे हो गया या अगर कोई और दूसरा है राइट जो भी है अहूरा माजदा हो गया राइट तो कहने का यहाँ मतलब ये है कि ये जो आर्गुमेंट है ये फ्लॉड इसलिए है कि इसमें ये टाइड टू एक बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग एनालॉजी है राइट और वो एनालॉजी ये है कि हम दुनिया में चीज़ों को बनाते हुए देखते हैं इंसानों की तरफ से और इसलिए कंक्लूड करते हैं कि अगर कोई भी चीज़ हमें ऐसी लगती है कोई डिज़ाइंड है तो उसके पीछे कोई डिज़ाइनर होना चाहिए पर ये आर्गुमेंट फ्लॉड है और उसमें यही है कि आप नेचुरल भी बहुत सारी चीज़ें आते हुए देखते हो चाहे वो स्नोफ्लेक्स हो गए हों या कहीं कोई पानी से कटे हुए बहुत ही इंट्रिकेटली डिज़ाइन पहाड़ हो या कुछ और पत्तियाँ हो गई हैं फूल हो गए ये सारे नेचुरली आते हैं राइट तो आपको फिर आप रिवर्स एनालॉजी भी लगा सकते हो क्योंकि अगर ये सारी चीज़ें इंट्रिकेटली डिज़ाइंड ये सारी चीज़ें अगर हैं स्नोफ्लेक्स वगैरह ये सारे तो आप ये भी बोल सकते हो कि भाई ये जब सब नेचुरली आ रहे हैं तो जब आप वॉच उठाओगे तो बोलोगे हाँ ये वॉच भी शायद हो सकता है नेचर के थ्रू आई यही आर्गुमेंट जो है वो महादन पेश कर रहा है अभी बेसिकली वो बोल रहा है हमारे पास इस तरह का कोई नॉलेज नहीं है कि हम किसी अदर वे इसको समझ सकें हमारे पास जो भी चीज़ें आती हैं वो नेचुरल काजेज से ही आती हैं ये एटलीस्ट 99.99% ऑफ द केसेस में ये ट्रू है फैक्ट है राइट महादन प्लीज
Yeah, exactly. Um, we just go with what we observe, and if we're observing impersonal causes, and that's the evidence of impersonal causes, we don't know what's behind the curtain. It's just an assumption to say there's a designer at the beginning or something. Just like if we let's imagine if we did observe like a designer create hearts, eyeballs, brains, mountains. You could also say that's not evidence of a designer creating that because it might be a natural process behind it all.
right
Like that. That ultimate reality that is it's natural. There's a blind process behind and the theist would object, but you have no evidence of that. We only have the evidence of an agent, a mind creating mountains. Where are you getting this kind of idea of natural? Blind force. It's not a blind force, it's a conscious force. And he'll be right. Well, then you should allow for what I'm saying is that you can't just assume when we see, let's say, a mountain form, that this mountain was formed by a designer when we know the causes of the mountain formation. Yet to say there's something else behind the curtain, yeah, it's just like me saying there's nature behind God or nature behind a designer.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Madan, can I just stop you for a second? 59 सेकंड अगर आप सुन रहे हैं और अगर आपके जहन में कोई सवाल है, आप आके क्लियर करना चाहते हो तो प्लीज़ आ जाओ आप। मैंने लिंक शेयर किया हुआ है और मैं उसको हाईलाइट कर देता हूँ। कोई सवाल है, हेलो भी करने आ सकते हो, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं। और अगर कोई सवाल है, कोई चीज़ क्लियर नहीं हो रही तो हम उसको अगर हिंदी में आपको चाहिए तो हिंदी में क्लैरिफिकेशन कर देंगे जैसा आप कहोगे, ठीक है? प्लीज़, लिंक यहाँ पे है। और नहीं तो फिर हम अभी बस स्ट्रीम क्लोज करने ही वाले थे। मेरे ख्याल से 5 मिनट, मैंने 15 मिनट पहले 5 मिनट बोला था, तो अब शायद हम स्ट्रीम क्लोज करेंगे। और हुआ तो अगर आप चाहें तो नेक्स्ट टाइम स्ट्रीम में ज्वाइन हो सकते हैं। Madan, what I was saying is we are about to close the stream. I think I said we're going to stay for 5 more minutes, and that was probably 20 minutes back or something like that, 15 minutes back. So maybe we should go towards closing the stream.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I think we've dealt with it in good detail, and now we know what.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing, yeah, and I think this is one of the most popular sort of arguments that are still in, not this exact formulation, the watchmaker, but that impulse, that drive towards design. I think it's probably the most substantive impulse for theists. By the way, I think in terms of I can't prove that obviously, but it's a theory.
Well, I agree. I think this. Okay, we have 59 second here.
Okay.
Hello, 59 second. How are you? कैसे हो?
हेलो।
Hello.
Yes, कैसे हो भाई? आप हिंदी समझ लेते हो, अंग्रेजी समझ लेते हो? हेलो, आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही।
अभी आ रही है? हेलो।
हाँ, अभी आ रही।
एक्चुअली मैंने कुछ दिन पहले आपका चैनल ये सब्सक्राइब किया था। सब्सक्राइब्ड फ्रॉम।
आपकी आवाज आ रही है लेकिन थोड़ी धीमे आ रही है। आप ऐसा कहीं ऐसा लग रहा है कि जो दबे छुपे बात कर रहे हो।
नहीं, एक्चुअली मैंने मोबाइल से ज्वाइन किया, मेरे को पता भी नहीं, मैं पहली बार कर रहा हूँ।
अच्छा।
एक्चुअली इसको स्पीकर पे कैसे डालते हैं मेरे को ये भी नहीं पता।
वो तो आपके मोबाइल से ही होगा मेरे ख्याल से।
सॉरी, ये मोबाइल में माइक बना हुआ है, चैट है, एक कैम का है। एक्चुअली मैंने वो साहिल के चैनल से मैंने आपको सब्सक्राइब किया हुआ था।
ओके।
आई थिंक कुछ दिन पहले आप गए हुए थे वहाँ पे।
अच्छा। हाँ, चलिए यार, साहिल को मेरी तरफ से बहुत शुक्रिया। हम लोग तो यहाँ पे जो बात करते हैं वो मोस्टली फलसफे आइडियोलॉजीज है ना, खासकर रिलीजियस आइडियोलॉजीज है, उसको हम फलसफे के तराजू पे तोलते हैं हम उसको। अच्छा, आपसे पूछूं, आप अंग्रेजी समझ लेते हो थोड़ी बहुत या बोल लेते हो अंग्रेजी कि
हाँ,
मुश्किल?
बिल्कुल मैं समझ लेता हूँ, मैं बोल भी लेता हूँ, बट एक्चुअली मैं थोड़ा-सा इसको स्पीकर पे कैसे डालूँ मेरे को कुछ भी नहीं पता। या तो मैं कुछ कनेक्ट करूँ कैसे?
अच्छा,
मेरे को
आपको
अभी तक इसको
आप
आया
अभी
नहीं।
किससे कनेक्टेड हो? आप ईयरफोन से कनेक्टेड हो क्या?
मैं मोबाइल से कनेक्टेड हूँ।
नहीं, मोबाइल से है पर आप स्पीकर, अच्छा आप ओके, मैं समझ गया अभी। ओके, तो इसकी क्या है तरीका? महादिन, do you know how to put StreamYard on speaker when you're talking? Because I
idea.
use my... Huh?
No idea.
Now it's okay. Now it's okay. Little bit wider. Tell me. Yes. एक्चुअली मैंने आपका चैनल कुछ दिन पहले वो मैंने फिर से बताया कि मैं आप एक बार आए थे उसके चैनल पर, मैं वहाँ पे वॉच कर रहा था, तब मैंने आपका चैनल सब्सक्राइब किया था। अभी आप मेरे को लाइव दिखे तो इसलिए मैं ज्वाइन कर दिया।
मैं आपकी आवाज़ बढ़ा रहा हूँ क्योंकि मेरे को आपकी आवाज़ बहुत धीमी आ रही है। चलिए, बोलिए।
Okay. What, do you have a question?
नहीं,
59 सेकंड
बेसिकली
भाई।
हाँ जी, आगे बताइए।
हाँ हाँ, बोलिए बोलिए, सवाल पूछ लीजिए। फिर हम क्या है, आज हमने क्या सोचा था कि विल कीप द स्ट्रीम शॉर्ट। बेसिकली हमने सोचा था कि आज की स्ट्रीम शॉर्ट कर रखते हैं। तो अगर आपका कोई सवाल है या कोई कंफ्यूजन हुआ है आज के इसमें, तो आप पूछ लीजिए, फिर हम स्ट्रीम को क्लोज कर देंगे, राइट?
नहीं, मैं एक्चुअली एक्चुअली मैं ये पूछना चाह रहा मतलब कि आप लोग जैसे आप इंडियन जो है उनको टारगेट करके आप स्ट्रीम करते हैं या फिर वर्ल्ड वाइड? क्योंकि एक्चुअली में हम लोग तो जैसे हिंदी में है तो ज्यादा कन्वे हो जाता है मैसेज डिलीवर।
Madan, his question is कि whether you're targeting Indian audience or you're targeting the global audience, because for him and a lot of, I think, our subscribers are from the subcontinent, and they probably are better versed with Hindi and Urdu basically, right? So मेरे हिसाब से तो आई थिंक हिंदी में भी हम कोशिश करेंगे, क्योंकि देखो मैं हिंदुस्तान से हूँ। मादिन जो है, मादिन के फादर हिंदुस्तान से थे, पर
वो
माइग्रेट कर
बंगला।
गए थे बांग्लादेश की तरफ, ठीक
हाँ,
है ना?
मैंने उधर ही
बांग्लादेश
सुना
की,
था।
हाँ, बांग्लादेश की तरफ। तो पर मादिन अभी है यूके में बेसिकली, ठीक है। और हमारा जो तीसरा साथी है, ख्याली, वो भाई पाकिस्तान से हैं, ठीक है। तो हम पूरा जो अनडिवाइडेड इंडिया है, मैं इसे कहता हूँ अखंड भारत, ठीक है।
ग्रेट। बट
मेरी तरफ ये है, अखंड भारत है, क्योंकि हम तीनों जो हैं अलग अलग जगह से हैं। हम प्री पार्टीशन इंडिया के तीनों हैं। अगर हम तीनों प्री पार्टीशन
एक्चुअली
इंडिया में होते, तो हम तीनों मिलकर कहीं किसी कॉफी
I agreed
इसमें चाय
agreed
पी रहे
from your
होते।
point of view, but
सॉरी।
actually what I'm trying to convey here, uh, if stream is going in Hindi, most of the audience will connect because your topics is unique.
If stream is gonna, yeah, we'll try to do it in Hindi as well. Madan, what 59 is saying is that topics are interesting, so if you do it in Hindi, then it'll be good. And I agree. I think
Connecting.
once we have
Yes.
Khayali as well in our stream, I think we'll have we'll try to coordinate doing it, and just like we did it today, आज जैसे हमने किए ना, आज हमने थोड़ी, अगर आप पीछे जाके सुनोगे ना, तो आज हिंदी इंग्लिश के मिक्स में आज की है हमने पूरी स्ट्रीम।
मैं उधर कंटिन्यू करता हूँ फिर यूट्यूब पे। मैं यहाँ से लीव कर लूँ क्योंकि मैं मोबाइल पे ही सुन रहा था, वहीं से मैंने कनेक्ट कर लिया आपकी बात को।
अच्छा अच्छा, चलो, आप निकल रहे हो फिर? हाँ, अगली बार आप आओ तो आपसे और अच्छे से आराम से करेंगे बात, है ना? अभी हम स्ट्रीम क्लोज करने की सोच रहे थे, पर अच्छा वो आप आ गए। आपसे बात करके अच्छा लगा काफ़ी, है ना? और आते रहो,
थैंक यू।
सुनते रहो, और आपको जब भी मौका मिले तो आप इसको शेयर भी करो, कोशिश करके, ठीक है ना? ऑडियंस
बिल्कुल।
मिलेगा तो हमें भी अपना ये काम करने में अच्छा लगेगा, राइट?
श्योर श्योर। गुड
ठीक
लक।
है, चलो, 59 सेकेंड्स, थैंक यू वेरी मच, है ना?
ओके,
शुक्रिया।
थैंक्स।
चलो, है
ओके,
ना?
बाय।
अस्सलाम वालेकुम भाई।
वालेकुम अस्सलाम। मादन, सईद भाई इज हियर, ही जॉइंड द स्ट्रीम। सईद भाई, 2 मिनट हैं हमारे पास आपके
जी
लिए।
हाँ, जी हाँ, जी
हम
हाँ,
हाय हेलो करते हैं, फिर स्ट्रीम बंद करेंगे, राइट?
जी हाँ, जी हाँ। मैं वो
और
उससे उसके बारे में
मादन,
बात कर।
मादन, I have given Said bhai 2 minutes. If you want to up it, it's your choice, right? But Said bhai, बोलिए।
Yeah, I want to discuss about the evolution. Uh, is evolution, you know, is disproof, and it proof God exists. So I have a question, but we don't have time right now, as you
Yeah,
said.
yeah. Said bhai,
Yeah,
what we'll do a separate stream on evolution, right? And for sure, I respond. You asked me a question, right, on one of our comments, right?
yes, yes.
And I responded to you that we'll do a stream definitely, and we'll take your questions. No doubts about it, right?
Okay.
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 But yeah, today's stream is more focused on this
Hey, do you want to
design.
ask a question though, and we will just answer it, and then that's it. Yeah?
No,
We
not
can't go
now. But
back and
next
forth. We
system
can't
I'll
have an
tell you.
argument. However, we don't have the time for that now. But if you want
Yeah,
to ask
yeah,
the
yes.
question, we'll answer it, and that's the end.
Yeah. Next time we will talk about it, evolution.
No,
Whenever
Said bhai, what Mahdin is asking is, Mahdin क्या पूछ रहे हैं कि अगर आपको पास कोई सवाल है छोटा तो आप वो पूछो, हम उसको जवाब देके और फिर आज की स्ट्रीम बंद कर देंगे. पर अगर ऐसा है कि वो सवाल उलझने वाला है तो फिर वो अपन बाद में ही करें तो बेहतर रहेगा, नहीं?
Oh yes, about argument
आप आपकी मर्जी, अगर आप ऐसे, है ना?
No, I think it's gonna take long time, so we will finish right now. Yeah.
Okay.
I will join next time in stream, and we will discuss about design.
No, design तो आज हो गया.
Watch this stream that I've just talked about, because most likely
design and the evolution.
Right, but okay, so you might want to watch this stream because we do talk about a lot of the design argument here.
Yes,
okay?
yes.
Yeah, so this particular stream that we did, it was devoted entirely to the idea that, you know, if a watch has a designer, therefore the heart, the brain, the universe has a designer, and we look into that.
Yeah, I want to talk about design is about the genitalia, human, female genitalia and the male genitalia.
साइद भाई इस स्ट्रीम को आप एक बार अच्छे से सुनो, बिल्कुल वाकई बोल रहा हूँ, आप इसको एक बार सुनो, अच्छे से सुनो, बिल्कुल ध्यान देके, और ये सोचना आपको है कि मेरे को सीखने के हिसाब से इस स्ट्रीम को सुनना है, ठीक है ना?
हाँ, सीखने के
बिल्कुल,
वास्ते
हाँ,
भी
मैं बिल्कुल ऑनेस्टली बोलूंगा आपको, है ना? और अगली बार जब आओगे तो मैं इस स्ट्रीम पर आपसे पॉप क्विज करूंगा, ओके?
अरे मेरे को उतना टाइम नहीं रहता भाई देखने
पॉप
को.
क्विज करूंगा कि आपने देखी है नहीं स्ट्रीम.
No, I don't have that much time to watch, that much time. Because
No,
I
do it in 1.5 2x, right? Speed, right? आपका आधा टाइम में हो जाएगी,
No,
right? 30 मिनट में हो जाएगी.
we will discuss about the evolution of human genitalia and the love, how this love came about, So we will talk about evolution of love and genitalia, human or animal genitalia.
Why those specific things?
Because this proof is there is a designer, not evolver. I mean, no evolution. It's a design. Particularly, is this thing designed? Okay. It cannot be possible with evolution.
And how do you know that?
I have a videos and I have a clips, so I will show you. I will explain you, in detail.
It cannot be possible by evolution because you have some clips.
Yes. I will explain to you. It's just not clips. It's my explanation.
What do you mean? It's just an explanation, not a video, right? Okay.
Yeah. We will talk about it next time, next system. I will bring everything.
Okay. Well, that's fine, but the thing that you're talking about is more of a biological issue, and if you genuinely want to deal with those matters, that would require you to go into biology, right? And
brother, we will just discuss for nothing but a time pass. Okay, if for fun. That's all.
That's fine, but you have to take it seriously. Let me just explain.
It's not that serious, brother. It's just for fun. That's all.
I understand, but it has serious implications, right? Like, obviously, it is serious in the sense that
brother, I will not become an atheist. You will not become a believer. It's just for fun thing. Okay.
I know.
Mahdin, let me ask Said bhai one question. Okay, I don't want to drag this conversation. Said bhai, है ना, लंबा नहीं जाएंगे. मैं एक बिल्कुल सिंपल सा सवाल पूछूंगा, हाँ ना में, राइट?
Okay.
क्या आप ओपन हैं इस पॉसिबिलिटी के लिए कि कोई खुदा नहीं है? क्या ओपन है?
Everything. I'm open to everything. If
आप open हैं. So Mahdin, I asked him a question whether he's open to the possibility. Right.
I understand what you said.
So because अगर आप open नहीं हैं तो हम कितनी भी conversation कर लें फिर कोई फायदा नहीं है, right? Because if you are closed, if your doors are closed, then there's no way that we can get, we can talk, right?
No, I'm open to everything you prove, and I will give up religion, no problem.
नहीं, इसलिए मैंने पूछा क्योंकि आपने बोला कि मैं नहीं छोड़ूंगा, और है ना, इसलिए तो फिर मैंने कहा आपसे पूछ लेता हूँ. सो यू आर ओपन टू इट, राइट? And
Oh,
so
yes.
once we give you enough reasons, right, enough arguments, you'll
Yes.
be able to accept those arguments as well, right? You're not going to shove them away, right?
No, no, no,
आप
no.
उनको वो नहीं करोगे, right? फिर
I'm
तो बात
very
करने में फिर
honest
मजा भी
person.
है, right?
I'm very honest person. If you even prove Islam is wrong, and I will give up Islam and join some other religion, or I became an atheist.
Okay, that's great. No, you don't have to do that. At least one thing we want you is to think through the things. So when you get a chance, if you get a chance, watch the stream and see what the arguments are, right? आपको ये एक बहुत बड़ी आर्गुमेंट दी जाती है, डिजाइन आर्गुमेंट जो है ना, आज उसको हमने बहुत डिटेल में, मैंने और महादिन ने उसको बहुत डिटेल में उसको आज टैकल किया है. ठीक है, अभी इसी तरह की और 2-3 डिजाइन आर्गुमेंट्स हैं, फाइन ट्यूनिंग आर्गुमेंट है, वो अगली कभी और किसी स्ट्रीम में मैं और महादिन और ख्याली भी जब होगा तो हम तीनों उसको टैकल करेंगे. और आप हमेशा आते हो, यू आर ऑलवेज वेलकम. ठीक है ना? और अपन
Yes.
फिर
Yeah,
वो
Saeed, if you listen to this stream that we did, it would show that the designer can't be God. It would show that the designer will have to be a limited being or a capricious, malicious, evil being, perhaps. It will also show that these sort of analogies can't be made. Now, this is explained in Hindi as well and in English, right? So if I'm saying things that might be, maybe a bit academic, because I can understand that some people might not use the jargon that I use, then Philo here is probably will explain it in a very easy to understand manner. And if you listen to all our points, it kind of goes around what you're talking about already. Like, even let's hypothetically assume that a designer is needed for the human body, let's say. Hume's argument that everything what I dealt with in this stream is something called David Hume's arguments against design, and his arguments deal with that to show that the Islamic deity can't be the designer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you might want to watch it and find out why I'm saying that. I can't say it now, obviously, because we need to go. But you might want to watch it, because what is the point of making a stream if nobody's gonna listen to it? Because that's the whole point of my book for an hour.
Brother, you
How
know,
much I'm invested in this.
you know the Richard Dawkins, he make a lot of point. People, it does not mean people, everybody going to accept whatever he said. It's just a discussion, it's just nothing, you know. So don't expect people gonna accept your theory, your idea. Don't expect like that. It's just we discuss about these things. Atheists have their argument, believer have their argument,
Yeah,
and
but
they
why wouldn't you accept the truth?
नो, आपका एम क्या है? आप सच
Truth.
जानना चाहते हो, यानी सच को मानना चाहते हो, यानी सबसे बड़ी चीज ये. अगर आप नहीं मानना चाहते तो फिर हमारे बात करने का कोई फायदा ही नहीं है ना भाई. मेरे पास मेरे कुछ बिलीफ
yeah,
सिस्टम में कुछ कमियां हैं या गलतियां हैं,
if you
तो अगर मैं
convince me, I will believe. You know, it's not. I will reject. Look, if you convince my brain,
Did you know that 99% of all biologists with PhDs accept evolution, human evolution? 99%. You can't get it's not Richard Dawkins. It's not just Richard. It's 99% of the community, right?
ये जो मादिन ने जो नंबर बताया ना सईद भाई,
Said, imagine if 99% of all hadith scholars said this is a sahih hadith, or 99%,
I reject hadith. So, you know, so even if you say
Said bhai, you are not saying the truth. You said you accept hadith. You don't reject hadith.
no, brother.
You accept the hadith that you like. You don't accept.
Yes.
If 99, look, in our conversation, remember, in our conversation, you said there are elements. How do you know there are elements?
About the universe before this time started.
Where did you learn about elements?
I learned it's in the Quran. There is a talk about before it started universe Big Bang. There was elements.
No. do you believe, for example, in the Quran, does it say anything about the periodic table? Hydrogen, carbon? Of course not.
No.
You
It's
accept
not.
those things.
No.
You don't accept carbon.
No, I accepted it. I'm not saying science
Yeah.
is developed by religious people. I accept it.
Sorry, develop what?
Science
Religious
is
people,
developed by religious people. Who told you that?
religious people started school, college, university. Yeah, religious people started.
No. So you are running away from the main conversation.
Yeah.
Just stay to the point. साइद भाई एक चीज
Yeah.
आपको बता दूं, साइद भाई,
Yeah.
Yes.
है ना, कोई भी जब कॉन्वर्सेशन स्टार्ट हो ना, तो उस पे आपको एक पॉइंट पे बने रहना पड़ता है, ठीक है? आप इधर उधर जाओगे, फिर आपको
आप
कोई भी स्ट्रीम में नहीं लेगा, ठीक है? आपको कोई भी
आप
स्ट्रीम
जो
में
सो
नहीं
ये
लेगा।
बोल रहे कि ये रिलीजियस पीपुल एक्सेप्ट नहीं करते, साइंस
नहीं,
बिलीव
देखो,
नहीं करते।
आप फिर
say anything.
डाइवर्ट हो गए, राइट, है ना? अभी जो पॉइंट चल रहा है उस पॉइंट पे अगर
Yeah.
बात करोगे,
My question is, do you expect the periodic table, like hydrogen, carbon, iron, magnesium? It exists. These things exist. Am I right? This is when you said elements. The elements exist.
All religions people believe in those things.
Okay, I don't know if all do, but that's a big
राइट,
claim.
वो भी सही नहीं है साइद भाई
Yeah.
कि ऑल
My
रिलीजियस
point is,
पीपल।
how do you know about those things?
कौन सा
Yeah.
religious, which religious people does not believe
No,
in
no.
elements?
I'm not saying. I'm saying, forget that. Forget that topic. Doesn't matter. Maybe you're right. I'm saying those elements. Those elements. How do you learn about those elements?
You learn in school, college,
And based on what?
based on education. The people
Yeah.
discover.
Chemistry. Am I right?
Yes.
Chemistry. So the reason is because 99% of chemists accept the periodic table. Okay?
We also would accept.
Yeah. So similarly, just like you are following that, yeah, why aren't you following 99% of the biology community who are saying evolution has occurred?
We believe in biology. It's not we don't believe in biology. Look. Even in Quran, Allah said about.
No, nobody said you don't believe in biology. No. You're making
सईद भाई आपने सवाल नहीं समझा। वो कह रहे हैं, मादिन कह रहा है, मादिन जस्ट लेट मी एक्सप्लेन। मादिन कह रहा है कि जब आपने केमिस्ट्री में मान लिया कि केमिस्ट्री के टीचर्स ने आपको पढ़ाया एलिमेंट्स एग्जिस्ट करते हैं, ये मॉलिक्यूल्स ऐसे एग्जिस्ट करते हैं, ये रिएक्शन करने से ये हो जाता है, तो जब 99% ऑफ केमिस्ट्री के टीचर्स ने आपको ये सिखाया, तो आप वो 99% जो बायोलॉजी के टीचर्स हैं जो एवोल्यूशन में मानते हैं, वो आप क्यों नहीं मान रहे?
No, listen. Allah said in the Quran, He created.
नहीं, अल्लाह की बात ही नहीं हो रही यहाँ पे,
No,
अल्लाह की
no.
बात ही नहीं हो रही अभी
We
बायोलॉजी
believe
के टीचर्स की बात हो रही है।
we believe in evolution. It's not we don't believe in evolution. We believe in evolution. Allah created Adam by evolving him from monkey. Okay, so we believe in evolution.
ओके, सो आपका फिर डिस्प्यूट कहाँ पे आ गया आपका?
He's saying
evolution, like evolution, evolution you believe in. Now God does not exist, evolve itself. That's your evolution. But
Sorry?
our evolution, God evolve things, make through the evolution.
Okay, so he's saying that God created Adam and Eve.
No, I understand what he said. The thing is, just like you accept the chemists and you accept the biologists are also saying that evolution can occur without any God required.
It's their belief.
Now, are you saying the biologists are wrong, that God is needed for evolution?
Yes.
You're saying that?
The people who believe in God, they believe in God.
I know that.
They believe in evolution.
I'm saying, are you saying the biologists who say you don't need a supernatural designer or God for evolution to work?
So
are you saying they're wrong?
We supposed to follow them, whatever they say?
That is exactly what I tried to get you to concede, because you said that's exactly what you do for chemistry.
Brother, think I doesn't
so
work
आप
like.
कंसिस्टेंट नहीं हो। मादिन का सिर्फ यही कहना है कि आप कंसिस्टेंट नहीं हो। आप एक तरफ तो एक जो ग्रुप जो है, जो इसको आप लर्नेड बोलते हो, स्कॉलरली बोलते हो, उनकी तो आप आर्ग्यूमेंट्स मान लेते हो, उनकी बातें मान लेते हो केमिस्ट्री के मामले में। लेकिन जब आप अकीदे के अगेंस्ट आपके कोई खिलाफ कोई आपके बात जाती है, तो आप वहाँ पे आप उस चीज़ को नहीं मानते हो, ठीक है ना। और वही चीज़ है, आपको आपके अकीदे के मुताबिक आपको एडम और ईव को कहीं ना कहीं बीच में घुसाना पड़ जाता है, ठीक है। और महादिन वही बोल रहा है कि वो गलत काम है, वो आप जो है फिर आप दोगलापन कर रहे हो, मतलब जो जो लैंग्वेज जिसको कहा जाए, तो आप ये दोगलापन कर रहे हो, इनकंसिस्टेंसी आपकी सामने आ रही है, राइट। और जबकि बायोलॉजिस्ट कहते हैं, सारे जो भी एवोल्यूशनरी बायोलॉजिस्ट हैं, वो कहते हैं कि बायोलॉजी के लिए कोई एडम ईव की रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं है यहाँ पे।
फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल बायोलॉजिस्ट ये नहीं बोलते कि गॉड डज नॉट एग्जिस्ट, ओके। सो
वहाँ बात
No,
उसकी हो ही नहीं
we
रही
didn't
है,
say this.
बात
We didn't
उसकी हो
say
ही नहीं
that.
रही
No.
है।
We didn't say that. We said, I didn't say God, biologists say God does not exist. Biologists say God is unnecessary to explain evolution.
एग्जैक्टली
That's what I'm saying.
एग्जैक्टली वो जो माइन्यूशिया है ना सईद भाई, listen to the minutiae of arguments, basically listen to each and every word spoken, and then the sentence that's being spoken and what the exact meaning of that sentence is, right. So unless until if you miss a little bit here and there, you get the completely different meaning, right, and then you start to straw man basically, right. उसको कहते हैं कि आपने आपकी सवाल कुछ पूछा जा रहा है, आर्गुमेंट कुछ और दी जा रही है, और आप कोई और आर्गुमेंट समझ के उस पर रिस्पॉन्स दे रहे हो।
yeah, Quran said he created Adam and Eve. So
राइट, वो
from within,
सूर्य
yes,
निसा की आयत एक है शायद, मेरे ख्याल से,
yeah,
ठीक है।
from within he created all race of people. From them, white, black, brown, all these races, Chinese. Yeah, from them he created all nation and tribes. So
वो
within
तो
them.
वो तो
So
वो
yeah,
तो
this is a evolution. This is a evolution within the Quran.
ओके सईद भाई, एक काम करते हैं, अभी अपन लंबी हो गई स्ट्रीम, ठीक है, तो अभी अपन इसको रोकते हैं। महादिन, डू यू थिंक वी शुड स्टॉप
Yeah,
हियर
yeah.
और
No, yeah. I'll just say one more thing, and then we can stop it. The thing I'm gonna say is that you're appealing to the Quran and the Scripture and so on. Yeah, but you're not getting that why we were talking about this in the first place. We were talking about this in the first place is because you said, how could on a universe without God these things come about? Yeah, and what I'm
Yes.
trying to say is that these things can come about, and the biologists are saying, yeah, that who are trained, who understand this better than us, who can see cells, who can
Brother,
see.
are you atheist because of them? Or you
Saeed, just stop. Yeah, just listen to what I'm saying first. The biologists, the 99.9%, very few biologists disagree with evolution, and the ones who do, they're not even trained properly on evolution. Yeah, and most of these biologists, science is very different to any other ideology or belief. They try to prove each other wrong. Part of the discipline of science is that you try to prove your own theory wrong. That is the methodology of science. If you're not doing that, then you're not doing science. Your paper that you write, the findings, the evidence, you have to challenge your theory. You have to challenge it. It needs to withstand the challenges. So when 99% of people from all over the world, even in the Muslim world, even in Japan, in China, they all say, without any real exception, that evolution has occurred, and evolution can occur without any God needed. That doesn't mean God doesn't exist. It just means God is unnecessary. Yeah.
as I told you, God created
Hold on, Saeed,
all
Saeed,
race of people within.
Saeed, hold on. So when they say that, then when you turn to me and us and say, how could this happen without God? Yeah, we're saying, look, it is possible without God because the scientists are saying this. Then when you start talking about scripture, it's irrelevant because all your question was, can it happen without God? And we've demonstrated that.
आप जो है ना अपनी पहली बात से मुकर रहे हो, सीधी सी बात ये है, राइट। यू है ना, वो आप जो है आर्गुमेंट पेश करना चाह रहे थे बिना खुदा के, विदाउट गॉड, हाउ कुड दिस हैपन, एंड दैट्स व्हाई यू ब्रॉट दिस थिंग। बट Mahdin is saying something very different, right? What Mahdin is saying is that God is unnecessary, right? God could exist, but it's not required, because natural forces, natural processes can create something like evolution.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. What I'm trying to say, as soon as Saeed goes talking about the scripture, it's irrelevant at that point, because his initial question is, can this happen without God? And that is satisfied. But when you have the biology community saying yes, no recognition or requirement is needed, no leap of imagination is required to rely upon a designer or a God. Yeah. That's the point that Saeed is trying to talk about. Hello, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. Can you see what I'm saying, Saeed? When you say, but the scripture, well, that's a separate topic. Then you have to show the scripture is true. Yes, I agree. Then we can talk about that. But your question is on atheism, if there is no God, can evolution occur on its own? Can design come about? And the biologists are saying yes. Yeah, they're saying yes, God is unnecessary. So that's it. If you agree to that, then you agree that God is not required for design. Now, you might have a scripture that shows God is true, and if that's true, then true, okay, that's fine. But when your question was always, if atheism is true, there is no God, can design happen on its own? Can animals come along? Can hearts form? Can lungs form? And the biologists are saying yes.
Look, brother, it's not like biologists said it is true, so everybody, they're going to give up their religion and
Nobody said that. I'm just saying you have to acknowledge that it's at least possible. If God didn't exist, this can happen on its own.
Biologists.
I'm not saying your religion is untrue. We can assume it's true. We can talk about that later. I'm not proving your religion wrong. I'm saying hypothetically, if God didn't exist, the biologists are saying it can happen on its own. You see that?
वो आप दोनों चीजों को you keep them separate for the timing, just to understand the point, basically, right? And whether you believe it or not is very different story. But if you are consistent, then you have to believe what Mahdin is saying, right? I mean, because that's what the scientific community believes in, right? Most of the biologists believe in evolution, right? Because whether it's through natural selection or combining factors of few different processes, that's a very separate issue as well. And whether your God exists or not, that's a very separate issue as well, right?
Look, Catholic Church believes evolution is true. It's not that they deny evolution, okay? The only thing they believe God too exists. So you have to figure out how evolution occurs.
आपने महादन की आर्गुमेंट नहीं सुनी सईद भाई. You didn't hear महादन्स आर्गुमेंट प्रॉपर्ली. आपने क्या समझा महादन की बात से? महादन ने ये नहीं बोला कि भाई अगर एवोल्यूशन जो हो गया आपका गॉड एग्जिस्ट नहीं करता, ऐसा नहीं. आप वहीं जा रहे हो बार बार, राइट? चलो, एनीवेज, मेरे ख्याल से यहाँ पे Mahdin, do you wanna say something?
No, it's okay. I think we do need to go. I need to go as well. So yeah. But you think about that. We'll talk next time. Yeah.
साहिद भाई, एक बिल्कुल हम्बल आपसे रिक्वेस्ट है, गुजारिश है, आप इस वीडियो को प्लीज सुने, ओपन माइंड से सुने, ठीक है? अच्छे से सुने. इसमें जो आर्गुमेंट्स जो दिए हैं, ठीक है, हम दोनों ने हिंदी में भी हैं, इंग्लिश में भी है. महादन ने इंग्लिश में किया, उसको मैंने कोशिश की है ट्रांसलेट करने की बेस्ट से बेस्ट. कुछ चीज़ समझ में नहीं आती, आप आके पूछ लें, ठीक है? पर इसको ज़रूर सुने प्लीज़, ठीक है? क्योंकि आप उसको और ओपन माइंड से सुने कि उसमें हमने क्या आर्गुमेंट्स दिए, ठीक है? और फिर सवाल हो तो पूछे ज़रूर, ठीक है? और ऐसा लगे कि हम गलत हैं तो बता दें, आप आके हमें बता भी सकते हो कि महादन एंड फाइलो, you were wrong somewhere, right?
हाँ, मैं वाच करूंगा और नेक्स्ट टाइम फिर उस
है ना, और नोट बना लो, आप नोट बना लो, you write the notes, right, where you think you couldn't understand or where we said something wrong, right, or we didn't make any sense, right?
All right.
And listen to it with an open mind, ठीक है
Okay,
कि
okay.
मुझे ये नहीं करना कि मेरा खुद अप्रूव करना है या डिसप्रूव करना है, पर ये आर्ग्यूमेंट्स में क्यों वजन है?
I will prove you how open-minded I am. Okay, I can prove to right here. यहाँ पर what I write over here, all religion believe in Allah except atheists. और यहाँ पर हिंदुओं का वो है, उनका होली मार्क है, क्रिश्चियनों का क्रॉस है, मुसलमानों का वो चांद तारा है। तो और इससे ज्यादा ओपन माइंडेड कौन हो सकता है दुनिया में? मेरे से ज्यादा दुनिया में कोई वो नहीं हो सकता।
ठीक है, चलो आप ओपन माइंडेड, यू आर
मेरे
ओपन
से
माइंडेड।
ज्यादा ओपन माइंडेड नहीं हो सकता।
Okay, you are open-minded. Sure. So go and listen to it and come back when you listen to it. You have any questions? Please do ask. You have any objections? Please do ask then as well, right? Okay.
Ji. All right.
And then we'll talk about other topics in some others.
Yeah.
In detail, okay?
Okay. I will gather some question about that and we will talk later.
Yeah, but listen to the stream first, right?
Yeah.
And then we'll have a pop quiz with you, right?
Yes.
All right, okay. I'm going to close off now. So thanks for joining, everybody, and thanks for listening to us. I think there's 3 people maybe watching. Watch the stream. If you just come on to it now, rewind it.
I will bring some question from your stream. Okay.
Yeah. Said, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to everybody right now, not just yourself.
Okay?
Right. Said भाई आपसे बाद में बात करते हैं, ठीक है? आप है ना, अगर छोड़ सकते हो stream, so then we'll talk to you next time. All right.
People who have been watching, including Said and so on, watch the entire stream, rewind it. We go through a lot of material. It is dense philosophical topics, but it's translated into Hindi as well. I speak in English. It's good to know these things so that you are aware of the arguments, and you will learn something new, because not a lot of people know about these things. So you learn new stuff. So I urge you to click and subscribe as well, so that we will hopefully be very much motivated to create more content. And we can't do that without viewers. Other than that, thank you for joining, and I bid you all a farewell. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.